Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for taking time this cool, bright Saturday morning to come and share your time with us for this very important and auspicious occasion. I want to also welcome our online audience, because this event is not only physical, it's also virtual, and we have evidence that there is very strong participation on the online route, so we want to welcome our online audience. Without much ado, I want us to go straight into the program. This is a health and wellness session that is being organized by the CFM, which is the men's arm of the church, in collaboration with the Wellness Center, to create awareness within the church and outside around some of the topical health issues that are really very important and becoming ever more so in today's Nigeria. A lot of these topics, people encounter them every time, they feel them around them, but we didn't think that there has been an opportunity where our professionals who know about these things are brought together to essentially talk to people about it, give them authoritative information, statistics, and take time to answer their questions and their concerns. So this is part of, if you will, CFM's part of our Father's Day activity, even though Christmas in this case is coming earlier because our Father's Day is coming up next weekend, but we decided to have that this weekend. We'll cover a range of issues, starting with mental health. We will also touch on what is known as sudden cardiac mortality, and then we will also talk about CPR. We have very experienced, distinguished, and really very learned speakers here with us, and we are truly glad that they could accept our invitation, both internal and external ones, and we will look forward, to hearing what they have to say. So I would like to call on our brother Dan, Deacon Dan Oba, to come and give us the opening prayer before we continue.
Thank you, sir. Shall we pray, please? Heavenly Father, we thank you for a day like this, which thou hast made. Thank you for putting it in the heart of the men to organize a day like this so that we can all be once again acquainted with even your vision. You said above all things, we wish that we enjoy life and have it more abundantly. Father, we pray that today, both those online and on site will be able to say yes indeed. We give you all the glory, all the directions, even all the guest speakers that you've arranged today. Lord, today all things will go well, and we will all be edified and also physically informed on how to live our daily life as we continue this journey in pursuit of our kingdom mandates. Thank you, Father. Receive all the glory. For in Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I would like to call on the President of the Council of Foursquare Men CFM, King Demola Adebishe, to give us some opening remarks before we proceed.
Thank you very much, Brother Emeka. I want to welcome everybody to this wellness mental health session. It's We all know that the country is going through quite a lot of challenges in terms of economy. And of course, this brings a lot of issues, pressure on men and women. And that is why we thought it fits that we should organize this program. Of course, this is a church, but then we all know that our bodies are the temples of the Holy Spirit. So it's important that we also keep it well. And that is basically the essence of this. We want to welcome Dr. Kalu Olua and, of course, our own Dr. Fagbemi, who will be anchoring this session. We pray that God will use them, grant them the unction to be able to speak to us so that we can take necessary steps to ensure that we live a healthy life. On that note, I would not want to repeat all that Brother Emeka has said. I just want to welcome everybody and pray that we all have a nice session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that short and crisp message. We would now like to have our first speaker, Dr. Kalu Olua, who we are very, very pleased to have here with us today. We will want the media to go ahead and play his profile so that we get truly acquainted with the caliber and the pedigree of the person who will be listening to. Media, thank you.
Dr. Kalu Olua is both Nigeria and UK trained medical doctor with over 20 years postgraduate experience. He is a consultant psychiatrist with special interest and expertise in addictions, depressions, sex therapy, and developmental disorders such as autism and ADHD. He obtained his degree in medicine and surgery from College of Medicine, University of Ibadan. Thereafter, he completed his postgraduate medical training in Guy's, King's and St. Thomas Training Scheme, London, Deanery. He has attained membership of the Royal College of Psychiatrists and he is an affiliate member of the Faculty of Forensic and Legal Medicine, UK. He is on the General Medicine Council Specialist Register in the UK and he is registered with the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. He holds Masters of Business Administration degree and Masters of Laws degree. He held various consultant posts in the National Health Service and private hospitals in the UK, including Kent and Medway NHS and Social Care Partnership Trust and the Hunter Home Group THG. He worked as a forensic medical examiner for the British Police Force in various constabulary in the United Kingdom. He is a co-founder of Cedar Care Foundation, a charity that provides funds for free medical care, health education, and psychiatric consultation for the less privileged in Nigeria. Dr. Kalu Olua returned to Nigeria in April 2019 after 18 years in the UK to become the medical director and consultant psychiatrist of Cedar Care Hospital.
Good morning, everybody. I would like to thank the organizers of this program for giving me the opportunity to talk about something I'm very passionate about. One of the reasons why, amongst many other reasons, one of the reasons why my wife and I decided to come back home is to do exactly what I'm doing this morning, which is to help educate and give information to other people to make their lives better. And the opportunity to do so this morning is greatly appreciated. Thank you, Dr. Fagbemi. So it's, because of what I've done for over 2 decades, talking about mental health and working in mental health, it's always a pleasure that people associate health. When people talk about health, they're not just talking about physical health, which is what most people see, most people talk about, and very few times talk about mental health. But interestingly, going along the lines of what the president talked about, the changes in our economy, the changes in the political platform, the changes in social life with the advent of internet, social media, a whole lot are beginning to come out. It's not as if the problems with mental health is a new thing. It's just that it's more obvious now, and people are talking more about it. And in a way, that's a good thing. That's a good thing because the more people talk about mental health, the more help people can get. If you can just go to my first slide, I want to read out a quote. Okay. So this is something somebody said, actor Kirk Douglas. Most of us talk openly about illness of our bodies, but when it comes to the illness of the mind, we clamp up. And because we do, people with emotional disorders feel ashamed and stigmatized, and they don't seek the help that can make a difference. Just as people can get help for malaria, they can get help for typhoid, for other problems, there's help for mental disorder. But unfortunately, because we don't talk much about it, the help that is available, people don't seek it. Oftentimes, the help that's available, because people don't seek it, they go to the wrong places. And when they go to the wrong places, they don't get the help that they need. And that is a problem. So one of the problems is not just about treatment of mental disorder, it's about the stigma that is associated with it. I'm hoping at the end of today, every person listening to me would understand that somebody with a mental disorder is no different from somebody with a physical disorder, whether it is malaria or long chronic conditions like hypertension or diabetes. These are conditions that can be treated and managed. Today, mental problems are there's very numbers of things, of conditions. We can't cover all of them, but I'm going to focus on what I have commonly seen in my clinic here in Nigeria. Okay? The commonest problem I see tends to be mood problems. People having negative emotions or what you refer to as depression. Of course, there are other conditions. Some of them are very serious conditions that require people to be admitted in hospital. The commonest one that would affect, out of every 10 person that you know, from January to December, 4 of them would have had a low mood or depression in that year. What am I saying? It is a very common condition. Some are so serious or severe that they need treatment. They need to see a doctor for treatment. But a lot of them, with just counseling and the kind of advice I'm going to share today, they can feel better and live their lives. So it's quite a common problem. If 40% of us, so if there are about 20 of us here, 8 of us would have experienced between January and the end of this year some form of depression. So that tells you it's a common problem. And, it's not something that affects just those who don't have money or those who have money. It affects everybody. It affects the rich, it affects the poor. It affects those who are educated, those who are not educated. Even doctors, psychiatrists who treat depression can become depressed. So it's not selective. It's something that cuts across population, affects women, affects men. So it's not something that don't ever feel, if one is experiencing it, oh, there's something wrong with me. No. It's no different from some people having hypertension and some people not having hypertension. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that can lead to people having depression or low moods. So why do we get depression? Why is it that some people tend to be depressed? One's genetics, your makeup, the things you and I got from our parents, got from our father and our mother, contributes to whether some people will have depression or not. Now, two people may face the same situation. In other words, in a company like we have right now in Nigeria where things are a bit tough, some companies are closing down and they're laying off staff. That is not good news. That is a sad news to get, that your job has ended. But it is possible for two people to be laid off and one person ends up being depressed and the other person is not depressed. It is generally because of the makeup. We all have different makeup. We all have different resilience to dealing with harsh and difficult news. So our genetic makeup can predispose us. Now, that's not to say that if one's dad or mom has depression, automatically the children will have depression. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's a tendency that if there is that illness in the family, that one has a higher chance of developing the disorder. But there are measures one can take to reduce the chances. The other thing that makes people depressed is the availability of certain chemicals in the brain. So most people really, it's just because there's a imbalance in certain chemicals, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, most commonly, people I've seen in my clinic who have depression would have, when you ask them questions about what is causing it, you will find out there's been something that triggered it. Sometimes it is the loss of a loved one, death of a loved one. It can be the end of a relationship. A couple a marriage that ends in divorce can lead to very severe depression. Sometimes not even in divorce, separation can cause depression, loss of a job. I've mentioned that. Illness, somebody who is ill. Recently, the Lagos State government has been going around demolishing some houses because they are the drainage systems, and they're saying these houses were not built in the right places. It's easy for the government to break down somebody's house, but the truth is, it's almost like breaking down somebody's life when you destroy their home. In fact, on social media, there was a woman who bought a house I think it was in February, and in May, her house was demolished. That is a major loss. That is a loss that can knock somebody from having a normal life to being depressed. So these major events happen regularly. I mean, things like even traveling abroad, japa can cause depression. Where husband goes to live abroad and wife stays back in Nigeria, or the other way around. And then there are some cases where we don't know why, but people end up being depressed. Now, how do you know? And I think that's a very important thing for those of us present here, not just for us, but for our loved ones. How do you know when your husband is depressed? How do you know when your wife is depressed? How do you know when a child is depressed? I read a very sad story of a very young girl whose mother found her in her room dead because she had taken sniper. And the mother's report was that it happened out of the blues. No. Very rarely do you have such a sad event as somebody killing themselves saying it happened suddenly. There are usually signs that precede that event. And being able to understand those signs is really important, especially for parents and for men as well. Men tend to be the machos in the house, strong. They are not supposed to show emotions. But the truth is, when one has depression, regardless of how macho that person is, the futures will be there. And if we're observant, if our loved ones are observant, they would pick up the symptoms. So the commonest things that you first notice is that the person, when they wake up in the morning, they're very sad. For no reason at all, they just are unhappy. You ask them, why are you unhappy? They can't tell you. They don't know why. They should just notice that they're unhappy. And that's regardless of what's going on in their life. They may have just moved into a new house. They may have gotten a new job that week, but they are still unhappy. The things that you expect that would happen to others, and they'll be excited. Even the person himself thinks, this happened to me 20 years ago, and I was really happy, but why am I not happy? I've been made the new chief executive of the company, and I'm not happy. So sadness and feeling very low. A lack of interest in the things that one normally enjoys before. You know, if, for example, you were the kind who likes to watch football, and then suddenly you notice over the last few weeks, over the last few months, no interest at all. You're in the choir, you enjoy singing, you enjoy participating, going to church, then suddenly you just notice no interest in those things that give you pleasure. That's another sign. Another sign that you can, that may show that someone is depressed is when they are not eating as they used to eat before. Now, I'm not talking about fasting, which is a deliberate, intentional act not to eat. But this is, you have no desire. I think that's the better word. There's no desire to eat. Even when you eat, you're forcing yourself to eat. You don't enjoy the food. They're eating because it's necessary. But it's not just not eating. Some people, when they're depressed, they overeat. They eat continuously. They put on a lot of weight. And one of the cardinal signs that's really, really important, apart from this ones I've mentioned, is the inability to sleep or oversleeping. It's more common that people who are depressed or who have whose moods are low, that they will find it difficult to sleep. And these difficulties, when I've seen patients in my clinic, I've seen people who say they sleep for only 1 hour. So they go to bed at about 10 o'clock, they roll and toss in bed till about 2 a.m., then they fall asleep eventually, and at 4 o'clock, they wake up again. And by 5, they're getting ready to go to work. So they're only having about 1 or 2 hours. That is also an indication that one may be depressed. There's also a slowness that comes from activity to do things. Even though they're doing the things they're doing it slowly. Their thinking process is slow. When they get to work, being able to concentrate on the work, getting the tasks done is very, very difficult. There's also a loss in sexual intimacy with their partners. And, because of that slow thinking, it makes it difficult for them to make decisions. Now, like I said, these things don't happen all in one go, but if you pay attention to yourself or to a loved one, you may pick up some of these things. It's not as if all of it will be present in everybody, but some of it may be present. The other thing that happens with depression is that there's a sense of is a lack of fulfillment in oneself, not feeling that you are good enough, not feeling you've done enough, not feeling that you could be better. I met somebody in my clinic 2 weeks ago, and the strong thing that she kept repeating over and over in the clinic was that I feel I can be better. I feel I could be better. I feel I can do better. So it's just, but what that translates is that she's having a sense of low esteem. She's thinking others are doing better than herself. Again, that can be a sign of depression. Now, one of the other very important signs is hope. If, I often say to my junior colleagues when I train them that our job as mental health workers, as psychiatrists, is not really the treatment. Our job is to give hope. If a person doesn't have hope, it is dangerous. And what is hope? Hope is believing that tomorrow will be better than today. The moment a person thinks tomorrow can never be better than today, they stop having a purpose to live. And not having a purpose to live means that, why am I here anyway? And that is what led that young girl that killed herself to kill herself. And that is what would lead somebody who you think has 20 cars, 100 houses, and they kill themselves, is because they believe, truly believe, that tomorrow cannot be better than today. That what they are feeling today is the best their life can be. And that's a dangerous place to be. And if a loved one starts talking to you about not being able to see tomorrow, not having any plans for the future, that is the kind of person you need to send to me or to a doctor to help, because they need help and they need it very quickly. So some other common things that happen is that the people who are depressed can be angry, they can be irritable. Sometimes, actually, the people that end up coming to see me did not come to me because they are depressed or they say they are not happy or they are not sleeping. They've come because they have a complaint in their body. For example, they have headache. They've seen all kinds of doctors, they've done all kinds of tests, and everything is normal. You do brain scan, you check blood, you do x-ray, everything is fine, it's normal. But you can't pinpoint why this person is having headache or other, sometimes abdominal pain, some kind of vague complaints that you think is a physical problem. But actually it's not. And that's the power of the mind. The mind is capable, when the mind is disturbed, it is capable of affecting the body. When the mind is fearful, the heart beats really fast, as if the heart has a problem. The heart doesn't have a problem. But because the mind is so powerful, it can affect the state of our body. And sometimes it's only when we have seen the general doctor, they've done everything possible and they can't find the cause, then such a person is referred to see a mental health doctor, who then discovers that what is actually going on here is a mental disorder. So that's the other thing. If you have a relative, a friend, or somebody you know who has been seeing doctors for years and they're not getting better and they can't find anything wrong with them, please consider sending them to a mental health doctor. There may be something that needs addressing, that is causing the physical problem that has been experienced. And then lastly, which is also something that is important, people who are depressed tend to think about death. They think about dying. They think about not being in this world because this world is so miserable. So when you have someone who is talking about those things, please do not ignore it. If you can't help them, send them to where they can get help. Send them to a doctor, send them to a pastor, send them to somebody who can counsel them and help them. And eventually, if they need help from a hospital or a doctor, a psychiatrist like myself, we'll be able to help them. But if you ignore that sign, when somebody starts to talk about, I'm tired of this world, this country is so hard, in fact, life don't tire me. What are they live for? You know, when they start to say that, it is a sign that must not be ignored. Because when it's ignored, like I said, those people are the people who eventually end up killing themselves. And, you know, we can reduce the number of suicides by just giving people the help that they need. And, you know, this program, for example, is a good way to give people the help that they need. And, you know, we may not have the statistics for it, but this may actually prevent somebody who is thinking, oh, there's no help for me out there, I'm going to kill myself. And then they now hear this and know that there's help for them. I want to read out some quotes from patients who I've seen in the clinic and what they've said about their lives, so that you get a flavor of how people see their lives when they are having mental stress. So this patient said, I feel worthless, like I haven't accomplished what I should. This was the patient I was talking about just now. Yet I don't have the energy. I am disconnected from people in my life, even friends and family who care about me. I don't want to get out of bed, and I'm losing hope that life will ever get better. Okay? Another patient said, my days are dark and gloomy. The air feels dense, like I can't breathe. I am paralyzed by fear and insecurity. I just want to hide and not face the world. My work performance is going downhill. My whole life seems to be in a tailspin. And this is a quote from a woman I was saying. She says, my husband does not understand. He just wants me to get over it. Interestingly, this woman was also pregnant at the time I saw her. He just wants me to get over it. My kids keep asking, why am I always hiding and feeling sad? I've been struggling with suicidal thoughts for several weeks. I just can't bear the pain and confusion any longer. So these are just examples of the kind of feelings that people have when they're in this state. Now, for somebody who hasn't been in this state before, you're wondering, so what's the need? Why can't they just get over it and move on? It's not within their control, okay? Yes, they can get help. Yes, you can be helpful by being more, that husband could have been more helpful by being more understanding and seeing the wife's illness as a real illness. But the husband didn't think it was real illness. He just thought, why would you just be sleeping all the time? Or why would you not wake up in the morning and do what you're supposed to do? Because for him, he has the energy and motivation to do those things. But for her, it was difficult. Okay, talking about solutions. We've talked about the problem. It's a real problem. It's out there. We have events happening to all of us every day, from workplace to home. I've just talked to you about people's home being demolished. Sometimes it's you've invested in a business, foreign exchange suddenly just changes, or suddenly they remove subsidy, your whole business plan for the next 5 years is down the drain, and you're wondering, or you go to work and they tell you, sorry, this company can't sustain 100 staff, 50 people have to go. So you can't have no control over those things. There are events that happen from time to time. But if that affects you negatively, how do you deal with it? How do you deal with it so that we don't end up in the situation where one starts to consider ending their life because life seems meaningless and hopeless? So the first step is actually talk to somebody. It doesn't have to be a doctor. It doesn't have to be a pastor. Just talk to somebody, anybody. Tell them, your friend, a neighbor, this is how I'm feeling. I've not been sleeping, I've not been eating. I'm thinking life's not worth living. I don't enjoy my life. I can't concentrate. Tell somebody, talk to somebody. If there's any message I want us to go away with today is talking to somebody helps your mental state. Now, if you've spoken to somebody and you still don't feel better, talk to a doctor. And it doesn't have to be a mental health doctor like myself. It can be a general doctor. Most general doctors are trained to be able to tell whether it's a serious problem or it's a minor issue. Talk to the doctor. If it's a serious problem and you need to see a specialist like myself, they will direct you to the right person, okay? And there are several things we can do. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of treating mental disorder, but there are several things specialists can do. We can give medication, which is safe. You know, some people say, and I want to dispel the myth that is out there, that if you take medication for mental health problems, you will become addicted to it or it will cause you more harm. It's all a lie. Medication is helpful and can make a difference in people's lives. It can actually make the difference between life and death. There are people, if they were on medication, will still be alive today, but because they're not on medication, they've killed themselves because they were depressed. So that's how good medication can be, but not self-medication. Not taking medication that your auntie or uncle was taking because it looks as if what they have is what I have. No, you have to go to a doctor who would do some assessments and then give medication. There's also counseling. And finally, there are many things that you can do for yourself that you can tell a loved one to do to help them get better. And I'm going to focus on some of those things like exercise, having a caring family, having friends, eating the right food. And actually, scientifically, it's been proven that those who believe in God have a better chance of recovering from depression than those who are atheists, who don't believe in God. It's scientifically been proven. So believing God or faith in God is actually very helpful. So I'm going to talk about some of these very briefly. You know, the Bible supports counseling. You know, it talks about getting good direction, and that's what a counselor does, really. It just helps you to look at yourself properly, because we don't always see ourselves as we are. So a good counselor will help you to see yourself, will paint a clearer picture. You see, when a person is depressed, it's like being in a hole. You know, there's a woman who described depression as being in a cage, a small cage. She can't stand up straight. She just crouched like that in the cage. That's how depression makes them feel. You can't go to the left, you can't go to the right. And this woman said, the cage is close to hell. I can't see a way out, but the devil is telling me it will be okay. Just kill yourself so that you can come over and life will be better. And that's what depression is like. You get this thought in your head that, where I am is so bad. It can't be worse than this. I think killing myself is actually a solution, which is not a solution. So a counselor will be able to tell you, no, you're not in a cage. Your life is better than this. Point out other things, help you to re-evaluate the things that you on your own may not be able to evaluate. And oftentimes, you know, when we have counselors in church or in other places, they're able to do that. And in fact, a whole lot of the times, that's all that is required. No medication. Just somebody to change your worldview of where you are. Yes, you've lost a job. It's as if it's the end of the world. How am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay my children's school fees? How am I going to the 50th birthday I'm planning? How am I going to? So you are concerned and worried about all the things that are not possible. But if you've just lost a job, it may be as an opportunity to start a business. Maybe you were doing something on the side, you were doing a small online business. Now you don't have a job. You're going to fire that business and make it move more than. But you can't see that. A counselor can help you see opportunities that you have that you may not be able to see. Now I want to talk, the last part, I'm going to talk about how we can help ourselves when we are faced with depression. Now, one of the commonest things that happens during depression is what's called despair. Despair, I'm going to give an example of what despair is like. Science, in the science world, they carried out an experiment where they got rats and put them in a cage. And on one end of the cage, they will put electricity so that it shocks the cage and the rat will run as if it's running away from electricity. And then they remove the electricity. They kept doing that over and over, and the rat kept running. After a while, when they shock the cage, the rat will not run again. You know why? Because the rat has learned that no matter where I run to, this electricity is not going to stop. So another group of people came in. So when the rat stopped running, they left the rat and then brought another group of people to test the rat with the same electricity. And when they were putting the electricity, the rat wasn't running. They put the electricity, the rat wasn't running. And they wondered why. What was happening to that rat is that the rat has learned to be helpless. And we refer to that as learned helplessness. This is a situation that you are faced with where you believe that no matter what you do, you cannot escape from danger. Learned helplessness is exactly what happens when people are depressed. They believe that nothing is going to change. My life is going to be this way, no matter what I do. If I pray, nothing changes. If I change my location, nothing changes. If I do business, nothing changes. The one I've done before failed. The goodness in my life is dependent on the policies the government makes. So they learn that their whole life is helpless. And the problem with feeling helpless is that there's no motivation to do anything because you've already concluded. So what's the point? And because they're not doing anything, they also see themselves worse off than other people. And because they see themselves as worse off than other people, and whatever they do won't change anything, they feel overwhelmed, they take no action, and then this whole cycle starts all over again. And they become worse and worse and worse. So how do you deal with this? The first step is to decide where you are. Where are you right now? Start from there. Instead of worrying where I want to be in next week or in 1 year's time, where are you right now? Where you are right now is that you may not be eating. So first step is to try and eat something. Where you are right now is, you may wake up in the morning, don't feel like having your bath. You have not had your bath all day because you are feeling low, you are feeling sad. Have a shower. You may not be going out, but have a shower. That's the first step. Go outside, go for a walk. These are things that would help you start to feel that you're in control of your life, that you're not helpless. Because you're making decisions on very small things, having food, drinking water, having a wash, going out of the house. Because you're making those decisions, you are not feeling helpless. And that will help you to make even bigger decisions like getting a job, bigger decisions like sitting down if you're having a difficulty in your relationship, sitting down to discuss with your wife or your partner about improving our relationship. So small steps leading to big step. Sleep is really very important when it comes to feeling better. And, sometimes to get sleep means that you have to see a doctor who can help you with medication and advice on how to improve your sleep. Another thing that oftentimes would cause people to become depressed and make them stay depressed is self-condemnation. Self-condemnation is you doing something wrong, and you know it's wrong, and you know you can do better, but you are unable to forgive yourself. First of all, it is harmful, very, very, very harmful to your mental health to hold somebody else in unforgiveness. If you hold people in unforgiveness, whether they are your husband, your wife, your children, your neighbor, your co-worker, your church member, your pastor, you are damaging your mental health. And you're exposing yourself to harm. And it's not just mental harm, even your physical health. Unforgiveness causes, in fact, there are some of my patients, after having spent some time doing assessments, they will come to therapy. We spend time dealing with unforgiveness in order for them to get better. And until we deal with that effectively, their mental disorder doesn't get better. Now, that is one thing that's important. But even more important is forgiving yourself. If you hold yourself in unforgiveness, it is virtually impossible to get better. You may have been unfaithful to a partner, to a spouse. You may have felt like a failure raising up your children. You may have made a mistake at work that you shouldn't have made. You may have made a bad financial decision, that you put all your family savings somewhere and you shouldn't bet with your family savings, and you decide to bet and you lose all the money. People are looking for ways out these days, harsh economy, so betting sometimes may appear a shortcut to solving financial problems. But then you've made a mistake. You know you've done something wrong. There is no benefit in flogging yourself over and over. The deed is done. So, what do? You move on. I like that. You move on. But is it easy to move on? For some people, maybe. But some people are wired not to forgive themselves. Just like some people are wired to forgive others is wahala. But the truth, what I've come to share with you today is that you need to forgive yourself. If you don't forgive yourself, hypertension is waiting for you down the road. If you don't forgive yourself, your cholesterol levels will be high. Your muscles will be tense. You will not sleep well. You will eat. You will not be able to digest the food. You will complain of abdominal pain. You will go from doctor to doctor. And they will test you. They won't find anything. It's just because you have refused to forgive yourself. What is called self-condemnation. And the bad thing about self-condemnation is that it's not just what you did that is the problem. It's the fact that when you remember it, you go through the whole process of beating yourself again. You remember it, you beat yourself again. You remember it, it is not helpful. We have to learn to forgive ourselves. Now, there are steps to doing this. The first is that you must get rid of unrealistic expectation. You're a human being. You are not perfect. That mistake of using the whole family money to bet in Bet Niger, yes, that was a mistake. You have to realize that you're a human being, you can make mistakes. Yes, you may have been unfaithful with your partner, you regret it, you've apologized, you've done the wrong thing, but you can't live there and not harm yourself with beating yourself. Be realistic with your expectation. You are not perfect. You make mistakes. When you start to feel bad about things you've done wrong, instead of just feeling bad, do something good. You've said hurtful words to your husband or to your wife, and you remember what you said. So, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, that was so mean of me. Instead of just feeling guilty, do something good for your wife. Go and buy her gifts. Go and get her a car. Buy a house. Do something to make her. Then you too, you start to feel good because you've done something good instead of just dwelling on the wrong that you did. And one of the fastest ways to forgive yourself is to confess your mistakes. Confess your mistakes if you made a mistake. Because if you hide it, if you hide the mistakes and don't confess them, it's much harder to move on from it. But confessing, to your trusted people, it can be to your pastor, to your wife. There's something I really like about the Roman Catholic Church. They have priests that you can go to privately and confess to. And that is biblical. The Bible talks about confessing to one another. It's helpful to help us to forgive ourselves. And then when you find yourself in that situation where, you've done something wrong, and every time the thought comes to you, you can't control thoughts that come to you. You can control whether the thought stays with you, whether you meditate on it, or whether you dwell on it. But when the thought comes to you, and you start to go into that cycle of beating yourself again, just say to yourself, press the stop button, and just stop the thoughts there and then, okay? And there's, lastly, I want to, there's what we call the AAA formula to forgive yourself when you've done something wrong. The first A is accept. You have to accept you have done something wrong, okay? And you also have to appreciate any lesson there is for you to learn from what you have done wrong, okay? There may be lessons if you've gone to do Bet Niger and lost 2 months' salary. The lesson there is that you know that you don't always win. You can sometimes lose. So don't even bother. And the lesson may be that you don't use 2 months' salary. Maybe you should just use half a month's salary or something like that. But learn the lesson. learn the lesson there is to learn from it. Okay, and the last A is adapt to new opportunities. Okay, you may have had a conflict with your wife. You made a mistake. You accept that. You appreciate. There's a lesson to learn. And you also should adapt to new opportunities. Now you have an opportunity to improve your communication in the marriage. Don't miss the opportunity. Start adapting to communicating better, spending time together more, so that mistake that caused that conflict can be dealt with. And then, you don't... okay, a better example is if you've lost you've done something wrong at work. You maybe, for us in medical field, you were negligent and something happened in the hospital and the hospital decided to sack you. Accept, you made a mistake. You should not have given a certain injection in a certain way, or you should not have done a certain thing in a certain way. Appreciate that, okay, there are lessons to be learned. Next time I'm going to do this better. I've learned from this. I'll do it in a different way. And then adapt. You may have been sacked from doing that job. But it's an opportunity for you to look for another job and new opportunities and, develop yourself. That way, by doing that, it's easier for you to forgive yourself and avoid self-condemnation. And lastly, one of the best ways to forgive yourself, especially when you're feeling guilt all the time, is also to have gratitude for the things. I've talked about doing good for others. So you can replace guilt with gratitude, just being grateful for the things you have, for the people around you, and for how they are able to support you even during that time that you did wrong. So if you've wronged somebody, a wife, your husband, a friend, and you ask for forgiveness and they forgive you, rather than having guilt, you can be grateful for that forgiveness. You can be grateful. Sometimes you're forgiving and giving another opportunity. You've done something wrong at work, you know it, and you've accepted that you've done something wrong, and then the workplace is saying, okay, we'll give you another chance to continue working with us, but please don't do this again. Be grateful for that opportunity. By having gratitude in your heart, if you've offended your wife, if one has been unfaithful to wife or to husband, and they decide they are going to carry on with their marriage, regardless of what has happened, you should show gratitude. Be grateful that your husband or your wife is giving you another opportunity, and you should replace the guilt that can actually damage the marriage with gratitude. Gratitude not just in words that you speak, but gratitude in actions. The other self-help is another thing that happens in depression is loneliness. I want to say that Nigeria is a blessed country. I lived in the UK, and my wife and I came back home about 5 years ago. The one thing that I'm so grateful for in Nigeria is the absence of loneliness. In the UK, people die, literally, physically die from loneliness. Someone can die in their house for 2 weeks, and the next door neighbor will not know that they are dead. That's how lonely people are. People, when somebody comes to, these people that go around to sell things house to house, or maybe Jehovah's Witnesses, there are people, the only people that visit them are those Jehovah's Witnesses that come to their house, or people who are selling things from house to house. Nobody else. They have no family, no friends. That's loneliness at its height. But interestingly, it looks as if even here in some parts of I'll say upper class, wealthy areas, there are people who are living like that, even here in Nigeria. But loneliness is bad for your mental health. I have to say that. Loneliness is bad. We were not designed, when God made us, He didn't design us to be on our own. Having relationships are important, and there are ample opportunities to have relationships. At workplace, you can make friends. If you're not working, neighbors, you can make friends. In church is a good place to fight loneliness. Most churches have small cell groups. So if you go to a big church, you may not know everybody, but if one of the ways you can maintain your mental health is to join those cell groups. I don't know that Foursquare has cell groups. Okay, so cell groups are tools for fighting depression. Because they allows you to know people in a small group, live close by. You can talk to each other. You can call them. You can visit. It's a good way to fight depression. Okay. Having a sense of belonging, knowing that, recently, it's not, there are families and there are families. There are families where they are all closely knit together, and there are families where they are not so close, kind of far apart. But regardless of what kind of family you have, it is a good thing to keep in touch. Just say hello, catch up on what's going on in their lives. it's protective. We call it a protective factor, having people around you that you can talk to, that can talk to you, that can help you see things differently. Remember I said the first step to getting better is to talk to somebody, and it's really difficult to talk to somebody if there's nobody in your life. Now, one of the things we must do to fight loneliness is also to try, there's a trap, a victim trap that we call the never lie and the forever lie. It's oftentimes people believe when they're depressed or they're going through a bad patch that their situation will be like that forever. It's a lie. Nobody's situation is what it is forever. Think about your life. The way it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, is that how it is now? Your life is not the same. It's constantly changing. So it's a lie. But unfortunately, when people are depressed, they're in that dump, that place where in that cage, where you are covered and you move here, you touch the cage, you move here, you touch the cage, you can't stand upright. You start to think that this is how my life is going to be forever. But I'm here to tell you today, it's a lie. There is no situation that is like that forever. There's another lie. The never lie. The never lie says, even if my situation changes, I cannot be happy. That is a never lie. It is a lie. There's nothing that says if your situation changes, you will never be happy. Okay? So it's important to understand this, and when you find yourself in that situation, understand that it's a lie and you mustn't believe it because it's a lie. No man can live happily who regards himself alone, who turns everything to his own advantage. You must live for others if you want to live for yourself. Still talking about loneliness. One of the cure, like I said, my clinic, I often meet people who are depressed. I give them therapy, give them medication. One of the advice I give them consistently is that they should find somebody that's, not necessarily somebody, they should find whether it's somebody or a situation and be good to that person. Do good helps your mental state. Just like I said, not forgiving yourself, not forgiving others would damage your mental state and damage your physical health. Being good helps your mental state, and this is scientific. Because when you do good, certain chemicals are released in your brain. And those chemicals help your mental state and also helps your physical health. When you do good. And the kind of good I'm talking about is the kind of good you're not expecting anything back in return. Not that you're giving the person something, thinking in a week's time, they will bless me too. No, not that kind of, the reward, you're going to get it. This one I'm talking about, going to an orphanage, go with packs of water, biscuits, Pampers, and just go to the orphanage and give it to them. They can't pay you back now. Those babies in the orphanage, they can't pay you back. But doing that kind of good, it's fantastic. It helps your mental, apart from the spiritual benefit, I'm just talking about your own immediate reward that you get. Helping others and putting others first is really helpful for one's mental state. Just a few more points about how to help oneself. In Nigeria today, things are very difficult. And it's easy to think that, if I just have $10,000, my happiness is made. I'll be happy because I can do this, I can do that, pay the school fees, pay rent. I can travel on holiday. But it's not true. Money cannot buy happiness. There are people who have $100,000. They're not happier. The politicians are still billions. They are not happier. If money could get happiness, they'll be the happiest people in this country, isn't it? Those are still our money. But they are not. They are very miserable. That's because money cannot buy happiness. It's a concept that you must understand, that the pursuit of money thinking it's going to bring happiness, no. Money is good, though. The Bible says money is a defense. Money can. I've talked about doing good to the orphanage. Is it not money you used to buy Pampers and bread and biscuits and what? It's money now. Money is good to use for the right purpose. But I'm saying in itself, owning it. See my bank account. I have 100,000, 100 million. I'm feeling no. It is the good you do with it that may possibly help get happiness. But money in itself doesn't. Sometimes some people think that happiness is when you enjoy yourself. You have can drink as much as you want, be high on drugs. I think that's happiness. No. It's been shown that pleasure in itself, if that's your main drive, what you want to seek as happiness, it won't bring happiness. What brings happiness is understanding that every day is a gift. Today is a gift because tomorrow there's no guarantee any of us will be here. Appreciating that fact can give you joy and happiness. Enjoying the small things of life. Hold your wife's hand and go for a walk. If you haven't done that in the last 1 year, do that this evening. See how happy you will be. Just grab your partner and say, today we're going for a walk. And just go for a walk and see how that feels. There are small things of life. Wake up in the morning and sing. Dance. Even if you don't know how to dance, after there's nobody there, the only person watching is maybe your wife and your children. Dance for them. You will see joy. They are small things. They don't cost money, but they bring huge pleasure. When my kids make fun of me when I'm dancing, it's the best time I'm having my family. Stay positive. One of the commonest reasons why some people feel depressed and unhappy is because they are always thinking negative thoughts. You see, for every situation, you can see it as positive or negative. Half a glass of water can be seen as half empty or half full. The people that see that half a glass of water as half empty will forever be unhappy, no matter what. And the people that see that half a glass of water as half full are the people who will be happy. So ask yourself, who am I? Do I see half a cup of water as half empty or half full? Be truthful to yourself. It's not an exam question. Once you're truthful to yourself, if you are the type, okay, another way to help you, ask your wife or your husband to tell you the kind of person you are. Are you the kind of person that sees the half-filled cup as half empty or half full? I'm sure they'll be honest with you. And they will tell you. So if you're the type who sees the cup as half empty, you can change. You can start to see that cup as half full. And that makes a world of a difference in your mental state, happiness, and walking away from depression. You must remember, success is not a destination. I can assure you, things work in the UK. There's light, there's water, there's good road, houses don't have fences, healthcare is free. If I wanted to do this, I went abroad. Actually, it was because I wanted a situation where I could work as a doctor and not have to worry how much is it going to pay. I can't pay, go. There in the UK, everybody, from the Minister of Health to the gateman, to the cleaner, they go to the same hospital, they get the same care. Healthcare, free. Of course, not free to the citizens, not free to the government. Government has to pay for it. But then, where everything is working, there's more depression there. People are more depressed. So that goes to tell you that it is not really the fact that everything is working that makes you happy or sad. Some people say, oh, I'm depressed because I'm living in Nigeria. Everything, nothing what they demolish houses, they do this, they do that. Yes, those things can be triggers, lots of jobs. But if your focus is that, when I have everything working for my life, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be successful. That will be wrong. You are going to struggle to be happy if you think success is a destination. Success is not. It is a journey. I'm going to end with a quote from John Herbert. Joyfulness is a learned skill. You know, I talked about learned helplessness. You can also learn to be joyful. You must take responsibility for your joy. Not your friend, not your parents, not your spouse, not your kids, not your boss. Your joy is your responsibility. For some of us, this does not come easily. You may be depressed or joy impaired. You will have to fight for it, but it can be done. Thank you. So I don't know if people have questions. I'm happy to take questions.
Please. So I am sure that we have all been richly blessed by what Dr. Carlo has to say. And for that, I think he deserves a much better round of applause than we have given. Excellent. That's better. That's better. Thank you. I can assure you that having listened to Dr. Carlo, we even have his better half, which means that if we were to continue this session, we will even hear something even better because we have his lovely, amiable wife here. Could you please give her a round of applause? Dr. Mrs. Kemi Olwa, who has graciously agreed to join her husband with us this morning. Just by way of introduction, she studied business administration in North London University, and she worked as a property consultant with Cameron Properties for over 18 years. She now works in Cedar Care Hospital with the husband as the hospital director, and they are married and have lovely children. Welcome once again, madam. So, Dr. Ola was right. I am sure that people have questions, comments, and we will like to give an opportunity for those to be heard and heard, even as we enjoy the time we have with Dr. Olwa. So, we have comments. There are a couple of them. What we've done is that we've passed papers around, and people have written their questions and comments. So, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. This first one is a question. Okay, thank you. What do you do when there is no alternative or better option to the problem you are into? What do you do when there are no alternatives or better option into the problem you are into? This question is making a lot of assumption. When you said there are no alternatives, it's difficult. I mean, I don't know what it is, but it's difficult to, I can't think of any situation where there are no alternatives. It may not look like a better option. The alternative may not look like a better option, but most situations have alternatives. I think the first thing to do is to get a counselor, because when somebody says there are no alternatives, it means they may not be looking broadly enough, or they may not be looking well enough to see the alternatives. So usually, I would advise, when you get to that point where you feel there's no alternative, talk to somebody, talk to a counselor, talk to a trained therapist, depending on what the situation is. So if it's a work situation, we have work, guidance counselors who can help with work. If it's a marriage situation, there are marriage therapists or pastors who can help you see alternatives to where you are, or help you analyze what you think is not a better option. I talked about the situation where, because of the economic situation in Nigeria, one has lost a job. So you may say, oh, there are no alternatives to having, assuming you were maybe an executive director and now you've lost your job and you can't find an alternative job to do. This person has given me an example. I'm just making up that example. I can't find an alternative job to do. But the truth is, you may not be an executive director at the next job. You may just be a manager or less than a manager, but it's still an alternative. You may think, oh, that's not a better option. But you can start with what's not a better option and build up to it becomes better. The point I'm making is that the principle of looking at options and looking at alternatives require you to sometimes involve somebody else to see it. I think that's the best I can do here because I don't know the situation, so I can't say much about that. And if after the meeting, if you want to meet with me to go into more details, I'll be here to talk about those. Okay, I hope I've done justice to that. Next question is, what could be responsible for one who goes extreme in their religious belief, which becomes offensive to their neighbors? And do we handle such situation to avoid damage to himself and others around? Okay, so my understanding of this question is that somebody goes to an extreme in their religious belief and it's affecting other people around them. Our religious belief are personal things, and sometimes what one person will call an extreme will be normal for somebody else. Okay, society has, depending on what society you are in, and the culture in that society, some things are acceptable. In some other cultures and places, it's not acceptable. So in Nigeria, there is a culture of praying before and every meeting, including armed robbers. Before they go for the operation, they will pray that this operation we're going to, Father will commit it unto your hands, take care. They'll go and attack. It's a culture. It's not necessarily because there is, of course, the intention is that that's not what prayer is for. But it's become a culture and part of us. So some people just do it for the sake of doing it. In the UK, when you pray in public, it's as if you are an alien. They look at you like you're an alien. What's wrong with you? That's an extreme. How dare you pray? Someone will even report you and you could get penalized. That's two extremes of the same thing. So it really depends on when you say religious belief, extreme of religious beliefs. You have to say that in quotes because I don't really know what you mean. However, one has to do things in a way that you're not offensive to people around you. Okay, you have to be respectful to others. You can't wake up in your house and be praying very loud and your neighbor is forced to wake up. You're disturbing them and they cannot sleep. I think that's not being fair to them. Also, there are some forms of mental illness that make people extremely religious. That they are not themselves, you know. When there's a condition we call bipolar affective disorder, where there's a form of it that is called manic disorder. This is where the patients believe that some of them believe they are God, some of them believe that they are a special agent of God. So they can go to the neighbor's house and knock on the door. Give me your pot of soup. God has told me to give you your pot of soup. And they will shout to the neighbor and disturb the neighbor because, they truly believe that they have what's called a grandiose delusion. They truly believe that they are in touch with God in a special way, beyond everybody else. Now, that kind of, and they have other extreme beliefs. They sometimes believe they have a lot of money. Sometimes they believe they are, they're celebrities and all of that. So, if you notice that this person has changed recently from who they used to be and how they present their religious belief, of course, it would be best to take them to see a doctor to get assessed and possibly get treatment. And once they are treated, that extreme religious belief will disappear. with good treatment. So I don't know if I've answered that question in line with mental disorder. So the way to handle such situation is to, if you think it's related to mental illness, let them see a doctor or see a psychiatrist. And if it's not, you can't control people's lives. I hope I've answered that question. The next one is, if you are around someone who is battling depression, how can you be of help if he is not accepting his state of mental health? This is a very good question, and this is what happens a lot of the times actually, that, and this is commoner with men. I know this is organized by, this is a men's program. Men, not just mental issues, they don't like going to hospitals. If they can avoid it, they will avoid it. So that's for physical problems. But it's even worse when it comes to mental problems. They don't quite think, as a man, someone who's depressed is because they are weak. You know, there's a subconscious association of mental illness with people who are weak. So some people feel, no, me depressed. No, I'm not depressed. But you know, I listed all the features of depression. If you list all those things, 8 out of 10, they have it. And they're saying there's nothing wrong with them. So how do you help those kind of people? One is persuasion. A wife dragged her husband to come and see me in the clinic. She did not tell him that they were going to come and she called me before he came, that they were coming to see me, for mental consultation. But she told me, you are not a psychiatrist. You are just a doctor. So that day I was just a doctor. I was not a psychiatrist. So she brought him. So we gisted because he's happy to see a doctor. He's not happy to see a psychiatrist. And he doesn't know I'm a psychiatrist. Now he knows. I can't use it for him again. So they brought him, his wife brought him, we talked, general talk and everything, talked about so many things and issues, and eventually he got the help he needed, okay? So that was a wife that was wise, because the husband said, there's nothing wrong with me, I am not seeing a psychiatrist. So that's one way to help. Another way to help is to get somebody who is influential, somebody they listen to, and get the person to talk to them to see a doctor if they're depressed. Another way is, to invite the doctor to the house. I often go to homes to see people. I don't just see people at the clinic because some people don't want to come to the hospital, but you can invite a doctor to come to the house. That's another way to help them. You can also do remote consulting. Some people don't like going to see. They don't want you to come to the house, but they don't mind talking over the phone. So you can do virtual consultation to help them. And then lastly, you can also make, I made a list of things that you can do to help yourself. So now you are not the one who's depressed, somebody else is depressed, but they don't know those things. So you can share those things with them. Things like doing good to others, things like getting a good sleep, exercise, those things that we've talked about that can help. You can share it with that person. But one of the things you can do too is to take them to see a general doctor. Most people don't mind seeing a general doctor in Nigeria. Seeing me can be, there's some stigma in seeing people like me. So you see a general doctor, the general doctor sometimes will be the one to persuade the person to say, look, you've been complaining about this stomach pain for long. We've done all the tests, we've done scan, there's nothing there. Why don't you see a psychologist? That's another way to present it. Why don't you see a mental health doctor, a psychologist? There may be something there. And, sometimes I've from experience of being a doctor close to 25 years, sometimes a wife has been saying something to their husband, or a mother has been saying something to their teenage son, the same thing, and they come to the hospital, and I say exactly the same thing, and they accept it. I've not changed anything the wife has been saying. I've not changed anything the mother has been saying to the son. Exactly the same thing. I think it's sometimes because of that position that a doctor occupies, that people say, Okay, if the doctor says so, I'll do it. And then they just agree to see a mental health expert. So that's another way to help them to get the help that they need. And of course, you can, I believe everybody here is a Christian, so I don't misfire. You can pray for them too. Sometimes your prayer is not that God, the way I see prayer is that God's answer to your prayer is that the person now goes to see a doctor. That's answered prayer. They go and see a doctor who has medication to solve the problem. It's an answered prayer. Okay. So the next question here is, opportunity comes but once. Is that true? No, it's not true. Opportunity comes but once. Is this really true? If yes, how can you get over lost opportunity? Okay, so we all agree that it's not true. Opportunity doesn't come once. Opportunity comes over and over, again and again. It never stops coming, actually. It never stops coming. So, since it will come again, the way to get over the lost one is to grab the new one that is coming, isn't it? Yeah. So, it comes again and again. Then the second question is, does retail therapy help our mental health? Does everybody here know what retail therapy is? Okay, so retail therapy, for those who don't know, is when you go out and buy things. You go shopping and buy things. Does it help our mental health? I like the word she used. Temporarily. So for a short period of time, you'll feel good. Because I can tell you there are some chemicals in the brain that makes us feel good. When you exercise, your brain releases the chemical. When you do good, your brain releases the chemical. Retail therapy is doing yourself good, treating yourself. So everything you've done good to yourself, so you'll feel good temporarily, like she said. Yes, there's some little benefit. But let me tell you, the one that is of greater benefit than retail therapy is buying something for somebody else that cannot pay you back. That has a much lasting effect. Scientifically, it's been proven. It has a much lasting effect in our mental state. You do something good for somebody else. Retail therapy helps a little temporarily, but doing good, buying the same things you would have bought for yourself, or you buy, when you go shopping, buy 2 pairs of shoes, keep one for yourself, call a secondary school mate that's not expecting your phone call from anywhere. Just call him, oh boy, I have a pair of shoes in my house for you. Come over and pick it up. You haven't spoken to that guy for the last 3 years, and you just call him. That does. And you may have just called him when he was about to kill himself. That phone call may have just come when the guy was thinking, since I left secondary school, now me wars pass. Everybody has progressed. Look at my life. My wife left me. My children are not doing well. Then you just call him. How are you doing? Kaluski, how you doing? Come over, come to my house. Come and I want to enjoy with you. I guess I buy something for you. You know, and somebody about to kill himself hear that, you've saved their life now, haven't you? And then they come over and they now tell you their story, how your phone call stopped them from killing themselves. You'll feel good for the whole of that year, beyond retail therapy. Okay? So, the next question is, how do I convince someone with symptoms of mental illness to see a psychiatrist? Don't call it a psychiatrist. Don't call him a psychiatrist. They will not come. Because the problem is when you say psychiatrist, they automatically see madness. But it's not, that's not how it is. So the way to convince them, don't call the doctor a psychiatrist. Just tell them you are going to see a doctor. Or you say you're going to see a psychologist. I also do psychology. Oftentimes people wonder what's the difference between psychiatrists and psychologists. They're similar in some ways. Psychiatrist is a doctor. You know, you first train as a doctor, then you now specialize in mental health. Why psychologist? So as a doctor, you can prescribe medication, but a psychologist it's not a doctor, so they can't prescribe medication, but they can give treatments, therapy. So a psychiatrist can do the work of a psychologist. So, for example, apart from medication, I do therapy, CBT, psychotherapy, and other forms of therapy. But people find it acceptable that they are going to see a psychologist. or they're going to see a doctor. But our society, as where we are now, hopefully will change in the future. A psychiatrist is not a good person to go and see. I don't know how they want us to earn a living if nobody wants to see us. So, yes, so I think another thing is, and this is a battle Cedar Care Foundation is trying to fight, the stigma associated with mental illness, okay? But it's in our society. And I think this has to do with, kind of when people want to get married, they ask questions. Was somebody mad in this family or that family? Don't marry because your children, things like that has influenced people now hiding things that, should be freely spoken and get help for. But the stigma in our society is what's responsible for why a lot of people don't want. So the way to fight stigma is to kind of normalize it, and I always feel very proud of celebrities and important public figures who talk about their mental illness and their disorder, because that's the easiest way to help society. If you have a governor or a celebrity who has a mental disorder and they talk about it and they got treatment and they got better, other people will come out and talk about their mental disorder. They will just see it as normal. Same way if a celebrity a man is dressing like a woman, other people see it as normal. Sometimes you start seeing men dressing like women. That's what public figures do, whether it's for good or for bad. Once a public figure or public people start to do the right thing, everybody starts to unconsciously copy it and follow it. And if they do the wrong thing too, everybody unconsciously start to follow it. So we need to fight that stigma. And that starts here. It starts with you and me. Because, in your house, you are the public figures in your house. You are the people that, your fans are your family. So tell them that having a mental illness is not it's not the end of the world. It's no different from other illnesses. If we can start to tell, you've come to this program today, so you are better educated than people who have never heard what I've said today. So you're in a position to say, having depression, having all forms of illness, it can be treated. It's like any other illness. And if you persuade your inner circle, your family and your friends, then little drops all over can gradually change that stigma. Second question here is, how do I help someone agree to practice the things that will prevent or reduce depression or help their mental state? Usually the best way to help people do the right thing is not to tell them what to do. Most people, especially adults, don't like to be told what to do. In fact, when I see my patients, I rarely tell them, you should do this, you should do this. I tell them, this is what I recommend, and these are the benefits. So I'm saying to them, really, it's your choice. This will benefit you, this, and these are the benefits. If they don't want to do it, adults are free to make their choices. You can't make an adult do what they don't want to do. But you can influence them by showing them the benefits of what you think they should do. And if you're able to show them, or get somebody else to show them the benefits, most people will go along with it. Most people who bet is because they've seen somebody who has won some money. So they've seen and they've shown them that there's some benefit in betting. Even though most people lose money, betting is rigged to benefit the owners of the thing, and people know that, but they just think they won't. But still, people do. So if people can persuade them to do something that will definitely fail, persuading them to do something that will help them should not be so difficult. But you need to speak their language. We all have a language that appeals to us, and usually, the spouse, the husband, the wife, will know how to get the wife to agree to something she doesn't want to do. And wives know how to get their husband to agree to something he doesn't want to do. There's a certain way to speak to that particular person that, I can't explain to you because I don't know what person you're talking about. And then you can get them to do things. But I can say for a fact, if you tell people, adults, what to do. You must do this. This is what you must do. There's a natural resistance to oppose and not do that thing because you're taking their, what do I call it now? Their will. God has given us will to choose. So if you're telling me I cannot choose, I will resist you. It's a subconscious thing that happens. And you avoid that by not being directive. Okay, next question is, why are psychiatrists unwilling to investigate the nutritional basis of mental health? I don't know whether you're unwilling to investigate. We know that, okay, I forgot to mention this when I was talking, that your mental health is better if you reduce the carbohydrate content of your food. Okay, so one of the things I say to my patients is cut down on your carbohydrates. So it's constantly being investigated. But I'm not, well, the kind of investigation is not this herbal stuff that we don't know what's inside. I'm talking about proper investigation. It's being done continuously in various centers to find what's helpful for our mental health. And nutrition actually plays a role in our mental health. Because our mental health, okay, I talked about chemicals in the brain that are imbalanced when someone has depression. There are various things that can add or improve those chemicals, and some of them can be in our food. And when we give medication, actually, we are using medication to change those chemicals. And if sometimes there are foods that can be helpful. One of the, well, there are many theories out there, but one of the ones that is consistent, that a lot of people support, is the reduction in carbohydrate intake. And that's an advice I give to my patients as well. Then the second question is, doesn't a sound mind require a healthy body? That is a well-nourished body. Neurotransmitters, hormones, and everything. Okay, so the mind, as I said before, can affect the body, and the body can affect the mind as well. And a classic example is the mind that is anxious. A mind that is anxious will make the body sweat. The body, what I mean, is physical body that you can touch. You know the mind, you can't see the mind, and you can't touch the mind. It is invisible, but it is very active and very influential. So anxiety, for example, is in the mind. If you break up somebody who's anxious, if you take them to the theater, open their brain, bring out their brain, you will not see anxiety there. If they have brain tumor, like cancer in the brain, if you take them to X-ray machine or MRI or something, you will see a swelling that shows that there's cancer there. But the mind itself, which is in the brain, you can't see it. So this person is saying that, it's asking the question, does a sound mind require a healthy body? You would, okay, and I'll give an example. I've talked about anxiety, causing one to sweat, causing your heart to beat fast. When somebody has cancer, which is like a terminal illness, in some cases, they can become depressed. It's not because the cancer itself is releasing chemicals that will cause depression. It is because the state of the mind I talked about, that learned helplessness, the despair, self-condemnation, maybe I was smoking, that's the smoking has now caused cancer. All those things come together to cause the depression, or I'm going to die, there's no hope for me. That's not the cancer cells or the chemicals released by the cancer that's causing depression. And someone can have cancer and not be depressed. So in other words, it is possible to have a sound mind and not have a healthy body. So somebody's body may not be healthy and their mind will be sound. Because, like I said, the mind is an invisible entity that cannot be touched or seen with our naked eyes, or even any kind of equipment. There's no equipment that's been designed to see the mind yet. However, having a healthy body is helpful in having a sound mind. But the direct answer to your question is that you can have a sound mind without just having a healthy body. One can have a sick body and their mind can still be sound. And there are many people like that in hospitals who are terminally ill, but they are happier than people who are on the streets earning millions of dollars. They're in hospice, they know they're going to die in a few days and in a few months, but their faith is in God that they're going to a better place. And because they're going to a better place, which is heaven, their mind is sound. They're actually preaching and sharing happiness even though they're dying. And there are many cases like that. So you don't necessarily need to have a healthy body to have a sound mind. So the next question is, what is the boundary between being depressed and being normal? That's an interesting one. As a lot of symptoms listed happen to almost all of us to one degree or the other. Please expatiate. This is actually a very good question. I don't know if I still have the slide. Let me just see whether I can list those things. Okay, features of depression: sadness, lack of interest in socializing, not eating, overeating, inability to sleep, oversleeping, tiredness and fatigue, loss of interest in sexual intimacy, poor concentration, a sense of worthlessness, hopelessness, constant anxiety, learned helplessness, anger, irritability. Okay, so quite a lot of this. The only thing I would say is completely not normal is recurrent thoughts of death or suicide. So yes, you're right. That some of these things can happen to people who are not depressed. So what's the difference between those who are depressed, who have these features, and those who are not depressed, who have these features? The main difference is the duration of the symptoms. So that I wake up this morning unhappy does not make me depressed though. To be depressed means you're waking up every morning for the past 1 month, every day. I think what's going on here? I'm so unhappy. The one day that you're unhappy happens to everybody. Everybody can be depressed. Because just, your child coming back home with a bad result can just make you unhappy. After I paid millions, this kind of rubbish results you're bringing, that can just make you unhappy, but it doesn't mean that you are depressed, okay? So that's one difference, duration of the symptoms. The other difference is the severity of the symptom. By the time the unhappiness is leading to the point where you're thinking, this life is not worth living. Tomorrow, I'm going to buy rope, and I'm going to hang myself. That's a severe kind of unhappiness that can cause depression. So duration and severity. Those are the two main differences. I hope I've answered that question. That's a very good one. So that people don't go away thinking, I'm depressed too. Every time somebody tells you they're not happy, they've just lost their job, you just think they're depressed. No. That's it's normal. Life happens. And like I said, none of us is perfect. Things go wrong sometimes. And we just do the AAA strategy. You accept. What's the second one? You appreciate the lesson learned, and then you adapt to new opportunities. And then move on. You're all listening to me. That's good. Okay, so the next question. What do you think that makes people to keep themselves in all situations without making friends? I don't understand this. What do you think that makes people to keep to themselves, in all situations without making friends? Okay, so we are all made differently. In this room, some people are dark, some people are fair, some people are tall, some people are short, some people have hair, some of us don't have hair. It's just how we are made. And some of this is as a result of genetic components we got from our parents. Some of them from great-grandparents, people who don't even know. Genes have been passed down the line. So there's another part of us that is called our personality traits. Some people are introverts. They'll come to this room, attend this meeting, they won't talk to anybody. Once this meeting ends, they've gone. They come to church, they just listen to sermon, sing praise and worship, End of service, they go. There are others, fellowship after fellowship. After each meeting, they will stay behind, they will gist, they will chat. If you are new, they know you are new. They'll come to you, greet you, welcome to our church. We are so happy to see you. You know, we're all made differently. So when you say what makes people to keep to themselves without making friends, it's some people just how they are. It doesn't mean they are depressed. It's their makeup. It's who they are. And those kind of people, when they are happy with themselves, they're happy. However, when people change, that is something to be concerned about. So I have a wife. My wife is very chatty in the house. She speaks for two of us. And when I notice that I'm the one talking, I know there's trouble. When I notice there's talking, that's when I talk to her, she says yes, no more. Or I say something, she says no. She just give me one word answer. I'll be wondering what I've done. So the same thing happens. If you notice your friend or neighbor or a classmate, this person is so bubbly in church, when she comes to work, everybody's happy, she's buying things. Then the person comes to work, just goes to their table in front of their computer and just starts not talking about it. Then there's a concern. Something has happened, there's a change. It's good to try and find out. And maybe they're depressed, yes, that's true. But like I said, if a person has always been the type who keeps to themselves without making friends, doesn't amount to depression. Okay? I hope I've answered that question. So the next one is, what if you start from small to big and then fail? So the cycle of depression starts again. It makes it worse, doesn't it? Okay. Yes, we talked about this cycle, and sometimes you kind of wonder, or some people wonder that maybe there's no point in pursuing your dreams or career to become successful, because you can acquire this big house, you've paid so much money, and then government just comes and demolish the house that is on the canal. That's devastating. You've saved for the last 20 years to build a house, and government knocks it down. Or you have been married for 20 years, had a good life. Suddenly your wife comes, or your husband comes to you, or your husband says, I'm sorry, this is over. The secretary in my office is my new love. I'm moving on. These are things that are real, that happen to people. You go to work, the company decides, what's it, GK? Is it GSK left Nigeria recently? Of course, people will lose their job. And some of those people will be earning millions, and suddenly GSK is leaving Nigeria. That's source of income gone. Sometimes when we read this news, it looks like news, GSK is gone. But because we are not the ED in GSK, you don't know that another family, it means no income for them. That is devastating. They live in a highbrow VGC, they live in a mansion, GSK is paying for the house, has 4 cars, 3 drivers, 4 chefs, and suddenly GSK say, we are closing our operations in Nigeria. That's devastating. That can hit people hard. And the truth is, yes, it can be a trigger to starting depression. But my brothers and sisters, that does not mean you have to stay depressed. Because, as we have said, there's no situation that remains the same forever. That's a forever lie. That situation will come and it will pass. And all you need to do, just think about your life over the last 20 years. No situation has been the same. The one that you thought, this is the worst that can happen to me. Today, you're in a much better place. I remember when I failed, so when in residency, to become a psychiatrist, you have to write 2 exams, part 1 and part 2. And part 1 is like theory, you write it, and part 2 is more clinical, and it's a kind of tricky exam. So I failed my part 2, and that was the first time I'm a star in my family. I am not, failure at the exam cannot be the same sentence when my name is mentioned. So when I failed part 2, it was like the world has ended. But now, I'm talking about it it's almost, it's nothing. Because the situation has changed. I eventually wrote the exam again. I passed. I became a consultant. I've gone to the height of my career, where I want to be. So that failure, at that time that looked like my life was going to end, it looks like nothing whatsoever. And that's how life is really. That our failures may have triggered depression in the past, but we don't have to stay there. We accept, we appreciate, and we adapt. Okay. I think it's the last question. Oh, if I have the time, I don't mind. I enjoy this. So the next question is, persistent abuse in a relationship causing depression from the other partner, what do you prescribe? This is a really good question. I say it's a good question because abuse, most times what I found out in Nigeria, the difference in Nigeria and the UK is that here it is hidden and covered. And unlike the UK, there's so many opportunities to get out of an abusive relationship that it's even abused in the reverse direction, that people claim to be abused when they have not been abused, just to take advantage of the society that is overprotective. But in Nigeria, it's the other way around, that a lot of, and I have to say this, I don't have any statistics for it, but just based on the number of people who come to my clinic to, that I deal with in relationship abuse, it tends to be more from the man to the woman, okay? So men, my own personal experience, like I said, I have no statistics, I've not done any research, tend to be the ones who abuse their partners physically and emotionally, psychologically, but sometimes it does happen the other way around. Women do also abuse men. And then sometimes the abuse is from parents to children, and very rarely there are children who abuse their parents. I was living in an estate around here, I won't mention the name, where adult children come regularly to the parents' house. These parents are in their 70s and they beat them. Adult children come and beat their elderly parents regularly. So much so that the estate executive decided to take it upon themselves to stop those children from entering. They took it, they now made it, it's a personal matter, but it was so bad that's abuse at the extreme. What could possibly have caused that? But I'm just giving that as an example of abuse can happen in any direction. From man to woman, husband to wife, children to parents, parents to children. Persistent abuse in a relationship causing depression. Yes. So, you see, I talked about depression, triggers for depression, things that can cause it. We talked about life events and a genetic makeup, as well as chemicals, neurotransmitters and chemicals that contribute. Sometimes there's a trigger for the depression, and sometimes there's not just a trigger, there's what we call precipitating factors. So, two people can lose a job in the same company. One will be depressed, the other will not be depressed. And that's because of their predisposition. So the person who ends up being depressed may be somebody who has parents who have been depressed in the past or parents who have mental disorder. So people can be predisposed to having mental disorder. So apart from predisposing factors, there can be precipitating factor. Precipitating factor is, yes, you have a tendency to be depressed, but you may not be depressed. Then suddenly something happens. So a woman may be predisposed to having depression and she will not be depressed. But then when she has a baby and delivers, that's another thing I forgot to mention. It's not only good things that cause depression, interesting. It's not only bad things that cause depression. Good things also cause depression. Some women, their depression starts after they've had a baby. And that's a good thing. You're supposed to be happy. A baby is a good thing, isn't it? But because of the changes and because of the predisposition that woman has, they can end up being depressed. Even things like moving abroad, Jakpa. Some people in Nigeria, they are not depressed. They have predisposition, but because there's family, there's friends, when there's difficulty, people help you, you go to party, go to church, enjoy your life, then they now Jakpa. All those things disappear. All those things are protective factors. The weekends, partying, church, the choir group, the neighbors, nobody again. You're your own. Depression will now set in. So because you've removed the protective factor, then the Jakpa is like a precipitating factor. Sorry, I'm digressing. But abuse can be a precipitating factor. It can be a perpetuating factor. Perpetuating means that it didn't just cause depression, but it's making the depression stay. Okay? And that's the bad thing about abuse, that it doesn't just cause it, it also maintains it. Yeah, that's the word. So it maintains depression. And interestingly, the thing about abuse is bad. I'm just trying to tell you how bad it is. The thing about abuse as well is that it doesn't just affect the person you are abusing, it affects other people. So a husband abusing the wife is actually abusing the children. The abuse of the wife, which the husband may think, oh, it's just this woman, useless woman. Actually, what he's doing without realizing is that he's causing harm to his children. So there's research, I'm sorry, I have to say this because it's come to my attention. There's research that your children's mental state is dependent on the mother's mental state. So for men, if you want to have children whose mental state is sound, you have a responsibility to make sure your wife's mental state is sound. In other words, it's the other way around too. If you abuse their mother, you are causing them mental distress. And this is all happening without, sit down, let me teach you how to be mental, to have this, so that it is a process that happens in the course of living your life from day to day. Okay? So oftentimes, when I see my patients in the clinic, I will ask them about their parents to know whether this problem didn't just start when you married your husband. It may have started before you met your husband. Okay? And that's part of what we do when we do psychotherapy. We're trying to find out where it started, how it started, and trying to address those issues. So abuse is bad. That's the point I'm making. It's bad. There can't be anything good about abuse. And so I want to try and answer this question. Persistent abuse relationship causing depression from the other person. What do you prescribe? Okay, so abuse is bad. We've established that one. It's bad for the person, the victim being abused. It's bad. It's bad for the perpetrator, the person that is abusing the victim. It is bad for the observers, especially the children. If in this case there are children involved, it's bad for them too. So there's no way abuse can give you anything positive. And abuse comes in various forms, there's sexual abuse. There are men or women insisting or forcefully having sexual intimacies with their partners, even though you're married, without their consent. That's abuse. Abuse can be physical, hitting with all kinds of things, hands, shoes, everything. It can be psychological, it can be financial too, because you are the breadwinner and the other person is not working, dependent on you. You decide, okay, if they don't play ball, I'm going to withhold money. So abuse is in all forms. It's bad. So what do you prescribe? What do I prescribe? My prescription is get help. And help can be in various forms. Help may mean, it always starts with talking to somebody, because if abuse has caused depression, then you need to address the abuse. Of course, you can treat depression with medication, but to actually treat depression, if the maintaining factor, or what we call the perpetuating factor, is there, so somebody is being abused regularly and they're taking medication, medication would help, but a better help would be to address the issue of abuse. And the issue of abuse cannot be addressed by addressing one person. You don't address abuse by addressing the victim or address the perpetrator. It's something you have to address both parties and try and help them to solve that problem. Every abusive relationship is unique. So I can't prescribe one solution for all. Like I said, abuse can be financial. I don't know what kind of abuse this person is talking about. It can be financial, it can be physical, it can be psychological, it can be sexual, it can be emotional. So every situation, my advice is to see a doctor. See a counselor. If your church provides counseling service, see a counselor, see a marriage therapist. If both parties, and this is what I say when I do couple therapy, I always say to them, if the two parties have not decided that they want to move forward, they want to improve their marriage, their relationship, they are wasting their money. I charge a lot. My fees are not cheap, they're expensive. So there's no point coming to see me if two of you have not decided that you want to move forward. If one of you have decided and you drag that person, I will collect the money, but you will not get results. You only get results when the two parties have said to themselves, not even to each other, they've agreed in their mind that I want this, I'm going to see this therapist with a view that I will have a better marriage with my wife or a better relationship. And whatever advice is given, whether I like it or not, I would follow it in order to get results. Once you've made up your mind like that, you will get value for your money when you go and see a therapist. So that's what I prescribe. See a therapist and get the help that you need. And you can start. I always tell people to first start in church, because churches in this country some of them are amazing because they provide wonderful services that cost a lot of money outside. Like Foursquare, I learned today that there's a wellness center. That's amazing. It just goes to show a church who wants to give rather than just, bring. You're giving back, and that's something to be celebrated, honestly. So I always advise that you go to church and see if you can get some help from counselors or the pastor. If that's not working very well, then you can come and pay for therapy, but come prepared so you can get value for money. Okay, so I hope I've answered that question. Thank you. There's just one more. Can I? Last one. When you tell people your problem, and instead of giving solution, they spread it. Next time, they want to keep to themselves. Okay, so yes, unfortunately, you have to, this one is very simple. You have to choose who you share your problems with, okay? So as a therapist, I am bound, you see, I've given you a lot of examples of my patients, but I've not mentioned any of their names. I've not said anything that will make you identify them. So we're bound, you must, people, you see, my job, people, for them to get their best from me, they have to tell me their deepest secrets, the things that they have never told anybody, in order to open up and benefit from therapy. So I have a responsibility to protect them so much so that nobody can find out information about them. In fact, the way in our hospital, Cedar Care Hospital, all our patients' records are on computers. We use what's called EMR, electronic medical records. But in my own patients, the people they call MDs patients, those are special people. Their notes are not in the EMR. So I keep special notes where I write sensitive things, and only my eyes can see those notes. Now I'm just trying to tell you how important it is to keep people's deepest secrets safe till I die. There are some things I know that will go to the grave with me. Nobody will ever hear them. So when you go to people to talk to them, you have to vet them. If you go and talk to every organization, every environment, they have those who talk talk. They talk anything that, as it's just entering their head, they're talking. They're just saying it. They're shaking. They're waiting for their next meeting so they can tell your gossip, what you have just told them. They want to tell it to another person. They can't hold it. Even if they try, they can't. Until they say it to somebody else. Then they will, I've said it. So when you meet such people and you are telling them your person, they will, of course, they will take it out to other places. So you have to vet the people you share your information with so that it doesn't stop you from sharing, because sharing is important. Having somebody to talk to is important. In fact, for me, I think one of the greatest benefits of marriage is having one person I know I can totally tell everything to, that, that's on my mind. So it's important that you are selective, and that person is my wife. It's important you are selective about who you choose to say things to so that they don't breach your confidentiality and then make you start to hide and not benefit from talking to others. Thank you very much.
Let's hear it one more time. Thank you. Thank you. I am sure that we've all been richly blessed by Dr. Olua. We have 2 more sessions by our own Dr. Fagbemi. We will have 5 minutes break in between so that we can stretch our legs. The next session will be on what is very topical these days, which is sudden cardiac mortality. And after that, there will be a demonstration of the cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which we will demonstrate physically, and then there will be an interactive session on what to do and how to do if, whatever happens. So let's have a few minutes to stretch our legs, and we will start 5 minutes on the dot because our time is fast spent. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start. Could we settle down? This is the, thank you. Dr. Fagbemi Saba. Thank you. Thank you. Can we settle down, please? Ladies and gentlemen, CFM officials, can you please help us with concluding your conversations? Thank you. Can we settle down? Those outside, can you come back in, please? Thank you. Thank you. Can we start, please? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brother Emeka. So usually when I have the opportunity to feature in gatherings like this, I try my best to mention a few things that sound like misconceptions. I tell people that in Nigeria, everybody is a medical practitioner, and we all have opinions about everything health. All you need to do is tell somebody next to you, oh, I have this particular issue. And before you know it, you have a lot of prescriptions. So we have Mamalawos and all of that. Okay, so yesterday, I drove alone to Agungi area and I was on my way back. It was funny to me, I already planned to say this. And one of these drug, I call them peddlers, you know, he was promoting one of his products. And I heard him say, we get malaria typhoid liquid. And I smiled. I'm sure if anybody see me, will like, why is this man smiling? I smile, say, oh, yeah. That reinforces the need for me to mention it today, that there's nothing like malaria typhoid or typhoid malaria. People have repeated it so often, so many times, to the extent that people now believe that there's a disease entity called typhoid malaria. There's nothing like that. Absolutely nothing. There are two different disease conditions. One is more severe, one is a killer. I tell people typhoid is a killer. So you don't want to wish yourself typhoid. So you see somebody smiling and strolling into your consulting room and say, okay, I get typhoid. I say, you don't want to know what typhoid feels like. So that will be the first thing. But before I move on, our own presentation will be very brief, I promise you, and because we have a practical session, which will probably be voluntary anyway. So I want to appreciate members of our team who are here today. Pastor Dan, we all know him very well. Dan Orino. This man he worked in the healthcare sector. You won't know, you could call him sector, but he worked for 40 years before he Japada. I think Japada. That's it, yeah. So when you return from Japa back to Nigeria, Mrs. Japada? Japawale? Okay. Okay. Mrs. Funkayevole is here. The latest mother of the groom in town. Well, okay, I think some other people will have done theirs today, Saturday. Then we have Dr. Ebube Ezeobi, Dr. Boluwatifedo is here with us. Okay, he's gone out. Okay, so he's a consultant gynecologist and obstetrician. And Dr. Kemabunta. Right? You are not, that's not your name. Okay, I gave you that name for today. So please, just tolerate it. I will correct that later on. Okay, so I thought that this meeting will bring together district overseer, zonal superintendent. So I had a list of my protocol, and I was going to say, okay, all protocol observed. So they are not here. So I'm speaking to men and brethren of the CFM, VGC, Foursquare Gospel Church. Thank you very much for having us. Sorry, we forgot to. We forgot to add that our guest speaker today, Dr. Kalu Olua, is actually the chairman of the Association of Private Medical Practitioners in this axis, Etiosa local government. So he's the chairman. He left, but I think we can record that. So our session now is just a package that is comprised of 3 small presentations. So let's just feel free and relax as we talk about this. Okay, about hypertension, I have another thing that we should be advised, that we should not take a unilateral decision in discontinuing or changing our medications. Don't just base your decision on how you feel. People go, I feel I'm okay now, no stress. And they stop taking their medications. That could be very dangerous. So please avoid unilateral decision of discontinuing or modifying your treatment without your doctor's consent or discussing with him or her. And then also malaria treatment is overrated, or malaria attack is overrated. Funny, but again, all Nigerians have their own definition of what their own malaria feels like, so they can actually diagnose their own malaria. And I've had somebody who told me it once, I know when my skin is oily, oily, just oily. I know that's malaria. That is so malaria. Okay. The truth of the matter is that you can go to the village and get bitten by over 100 mosquitoes and not contract malaria. Okay. So I guess malaria is not looking for you, and it's not to be treated arbitrarily. Those medications are chemicals, and because they are cheap in Nigeria, people just runs to the chemist and buy anti-malaria. So please, let's be well informed and be careful. So, first slide, please. Let's go through quickly. They'll be very short ones. Causes of sudden mortality. Yes. Okay. The purpose of this presentation and areas of focus are definitions. We're going to talk about definition, causes of sudden death, mitigation, and then practical aspects. Okay, definitions. When you hear cardiac simply means heart. Vascular just means blood vessels. And then, so when we talk about cardiovascular diseases, we're talking about diseases resulting from the heart and blood vessels. When you hear about risk factors, we're talking, just like the psychiatrist mentioned a short while ago, we use a different term, risk factor. Those are something that makes you more likely to have a particular disease. Majority of risk factors of cardiovascular diseases are known and preventable. Examples are things like smoking, hypertension, those are all personal or family history. The history of fainting. These are things that occur or that you suffer from or that you have experienced that could make you more likely to have a cardiovascular event. So sudden death, it's not a diagnosis, it's not really a diagnosis. So when you hear sudden death, it doesn't really a diagnosis. Okay, then non-medical causes of sudden mortality are also listed there. Things like hospice. So when we talk about sudden death, actually we're referring to those that are related to medical causes. Next slide. Okay, so general causes, these are just general. Drug reaction, in the past we had a drug called halofentrin, very nice drug for treating malaria. Just 6 tablets a day, 2 every 6 hours, and you are good, and by the time you take the second dose, you're already feeling very good. But this drug was also a killer, and that was one of the reasons it was withdrawn. It causes the heart's electrical function to misbehave. it causes what they call QT interval. It extends it, that's just being technical. Metformin is for treatment of diabetes. But one of the effects at the end of the day is that it reduces your blood sugar. So if you take an overdose, could result in death. Insulin, of course, does it faster. It crashes your blood sugar, depending on the dose and all that. So those are the general causes. Then food allergy, mostly seafood. So people who are allergic, not everybody is allergic. But when you talk about food allergy, the listed examples are the common culprits. There could be others. Seafoods are commoner causes. Shrimps, shellfish, peanuts. Yeah, some people can actually die from taking peanuts related nuts. Then there's one mushroom they call death angel mushroom. That is also a common killer. Anaphylactic reactions. Those are reactions that people develop to medications, particularly when it's given either by way of injection or drip or whatever. Those are the main causes. But people can die suddenly when you administer penicillin or penicillin-related medications. Then stings of bees or wasps for those who are allergic to them, and hornets and all that. So others are pollen, and for people who are so allergic, they carry a warning, either in form of bracelet, and they carry a drug called epinephrine, so that people around can easily identify by checking out these bracelets or neck, whatever, that this individual is allergic, and they administer the epinephrine. It's very easy to administer when they carry it around. You just break it and it's given subcutaneous. The use of recreational drugs like cocaine and overdose of that can also kill. Then this is important, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. But hereditary conditions are listed there, technical names, but hereditary, some people they are born with a predisposition, usually with a malformation of the heart, that can predispose them to sudden death, sometime, somewhere along the line in life. And then we have things like cardiomyopathy, and there's one particular example of a name mentioned, Brugada syndrome. That's an example of people born with those malformations, congenital we call them. And what's the next one? Miscellaneous cases. Okay, miscellaneous cases. Acute asthma. I'm sure you've heard of people dying overnight. You just check in their rooms, the following morning they are dead. So acute severe asthma, which is a complication of the regular asthmatic attacks, can actually kill. And it doesn't have to be related to anything. The person may have been healthy all day and will go to bed, and the attack comes massively and without intervention. Sudden death. Epilepsy itself does not kill, and it's not contagious. The saliva is not contagious. That's something I also mentioned. The saliva of an epileptic or somebody's seizure is not contagious, so people should not run away from such cases. In fact, you should do a good thing by helping them. Just if you are around, people will usually run away. But since we are talking about this, all you need to do is just put them on their side to ensure that they don't aspirate, because what will cause them to go into trouble will be if they inhale or aspirate the content from their mouth. So you put them on their side, just stay by them until the seizure ceases. And when they come around, usually you'll be the only person standing. Others will have kept a distance. That's the way it happens in this part of the world. Then we have deep vein thrombosis. That's a clot, or I think people call it congealed blood. If it dislodges from the lower limb and goes up, then it can cause a problem. ruptured aneurysm, that's a vessel that is ballooned, bursting. And then sudden cardiac arrest. That's the key thing we're going to talk about in the next slide. And then, of course, we have miscellaneous, okay, we've mentioned asthma, epilepsy. Those are just miscellaneous. Now let's go to the final main slide. Okay, sudden cardiac arrest is collapse or slump without warming. I think that's more, we're familiar with it. In medicine, we use the word collapse more. So, sudden cardiac arrest is a collapse without warning. The heart just stops beating. Blood stops flowing to the brain and other organs. And individuals with that problem will also stop breathing. There will be no pulse. All happen within seconds. And the cause of sudden cardiac arrest is an abnormal heart rhythm. The heart is actually stimulated by, let me call it, an electrical station. There's a station. There are multiple stations in the heart, but there's one particular station called SA node where current is generated that keeps the heart beating regularly and at steady intervals. So if anything goes wrong with that generator, then there will be problem. And that's found out to be the commonest cause of what we call cardiac arrest or sudden death. It's very frightening, and this is perhaps the most important slide. I think just 5. But I want to take note of this particular statement. Sudden cardiac arrest is frightening, quite frightening. I mean, you're talking with someone, I've heard of a group of doctors, professors and all that, just outside a conference, medical conference, and they were just gisting outside, and then suddenly one professor of medicine collapsed, and that was it, he died. Okay? But I want you to take note of the second sentence. A new study found out about half of the cases had telltale warning signs for a month before they were ignored by most. And only 1 in 5 actually reached out to a doctor out of the so many that were retrospectively reviewed. So the big takeaway is to pay attention to your body. Some of the telltale warning signs include unexplained chest pain. There's chest pains you can explain. I mean, you've been carrying load, you've been running up and down. You're entitled to experiences of chest pain. That's explainable. But when it's unexplained and it's persistent, and especially when it's associated with shortness of breath, or you feel faint, dizzy spells, or you experience palpitations or flu-like symptoms, so you need to see a doctor. Don't wish it away. Don't explain it away. Try and see a medical. Just tell him or her. So only 10% of victims will survive, nonetheless, but it's good to do something. So prompt care is key to survival. Seek help and initiate CPR immediately. So I'll just pause for us to have a look at that second paragraph again. Most people had a premonition because they must have experienced some or more of these symptoms, body which they were, feeling faint, not a big deal, or they just quickly got up and they are okay. But it's good to check out with the doctor to just look at what's going on. Okay, so next slide. I think that should be the end of it. Okay, so mitigation is to ensure that you carry out regular well check. The basics are to have a vital signs check. Your blood pressure should be checked at least once or twice a year, even if you are normal, nothing you never experienced before. So my experience has shown that most people only have their blood pressure and the other stuff checked when they are going for for job placements and all that. And when you ask them what's your blood pressure, they smile. They've never had it checked. So blood pressure, fasting blood sugar, full blood counts, urine, these are basic. And then a full physical examination by a professional, at least once a year for adults, is important. Note that it's not just enough to go to a lab and have all these tests done. That's not a good check without a doctor actually examining. This is the basic minimum, like I said. You may be surprised, when you subject yourself to physical exam, what the doctor may actually find or discover. I can also say that in our center here, we had somebody who found out that her heart was actually on the right side. Very rare, but nobody will have known without a physical exam. So risk factors, more investigations like ECG, electrolyte and urea, lipid profile, D-dimer, cardiac enzymes could be added based on the history and based on what the doctor had found. So other mitigations are lifestyle adjustments like eating well and right, eating well and eating right. You had the psychiatrist mention low carbohydrates, also low fats. But in addition to that, the timing is now also very important. When you eat, latest studies suggesting that your best bet is to eat your last meal for the day at least 3 hours before you go to bed. 3 hours. So if you go to bed at 10, your last meal for the day should be at 7. So you're talking about the quality of food, you're also talking about the timing. The timing is also very important. And it's not just about managing your weight. There are so many. In fact, there are some other more concerning disease conditions associated with eating late. So 3 hours, try and do that at least 4 times a week. Other days in the week you can abuse that. So acquire basic life support knowledge and skills. We're going to demonstrate that briefly, and then acquire and learn how to operate an AED, that's an automated external defibrillator, which is used to shock the heart back into action. Then, of course, call for assistance. You have just 5 minutes to save a life. Remember the CAB steps. We'll watch a short video now, just about 1 minute or less. Video. Okay, so this from, I'm sure some of us must have seen this before. Yeah, can watch that guy. This is a true event, actually. You can see somebody there with knowledge and skill of performing the, what we call CPR, cardiovascular.
Officially?
Officially, yes. Thank you, Des.
Goodness me.
Yeah.
How did you know what to do?
Well, I have had some sort of training in the past on some CPR and everything, but as you can see from the video, really, I didn't expect it. I thought he was mucking around, to be honest, because as I say, we normally film our...
So that's not a doctor, but he happened to be around.
Recording your sparring session, wasn't
exactly.
it? If you've never had the training, should you still do it on someone?
Yeah, absolutely. The very worst thing you can do is nothing.
Right, okay.
Anything is better than nothing. As Mark said, he was dead. So you're not going to make that situation any worse at all. And actually, when you dial 999 these days, the operator at the other end, the emergency service operator, will help you and coach you through it. You shake them to see if they respond. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? There's no response. Shout for help. Help. Get somebody to dial 999 or do it yourself and start doing CPR, which are 30 chest compressions. And you had to press hard and fast in the centre of the chest with your weight right over. If you're able to do the rescue breaths, tilt the neck back, hold onto the nose, cover the whole of their mouth with yours. 2 breaths, and then back to 30 compressions. Keep doing that. It is hard work. You need to move the chest about 4 to 6 centimeters in to try and make it as effective as possible. But do something. The worst thing you can do is nothing.
Okay, so the worst thing you can do, the worst is doing nothing. So if you're there and you see somebody slump, the first thing you want to be sure about is that the person is not just tired or hungry or just down for whatever other reason. You need to be sure that the heart has stopped beating by checking the pulse and then calling for help. There they say you call 999, but in Nigeria you can call, I think, 112 in Lagos. And then, of course, before you do that, make sure the patient is moved into a safe place. Then start your, what you call ABC, check the airway, check that patient is breathing, and then start check on the cardiovascular system or circulatory system. However, that has been changed. The sequence is now CAB. So you start with the compression first and go to the airway and all that. So we'll demonstrate that. But it's already shown in that short video. Lastly, we show us what an AED is. You started to carry out the CAB sequence and then you are waiting for an AED. So you call someone to bring this automated external defibrillator. So we just go through it quickly. Next slide. Next. Okay? Next, just go ahead. Go ahead, please. We want to see the AED. Okay, this is the chain. So this was the ABC in the past, now changed to CAB. Next. Okay, approach safely, make sure the place environment is safe for you to continue. Check the response. Actually, when you have 2, 3, 4, 5 people, victims, the person who is shouting and screaming is not as much as risk as the person who is quiet and not making any sound. Because if you can talk, shout, that means your airway is patent. You are okay with your airway. So go to the person who is not moving, who is not talking, who is not showing any sign of life. Then shout for help. Like we said before, you open the airway, check the breathing, but now you just go ahead with 30 chest compressions and then alternate with 2 rescue breaths, which we will demonstrate soon. Okay? Next. Okay, you've done all that. Next. Okay, so you're asking, are you okay? You need to be sure it's okay. Like I said, it could be hungry, just tired, exhausted. So if he's not saying anything or it's just limp, then you know that something is really wrong, likely with the heart. And of course, they didn't mention, but you need to check the pulse. The most accessible pulse for you to check is the carotid pulse, which is around about the neck. Next slide. Okay, this is still checking. Are you okay? Are you all right? If you respond, of course, you leave him as you find him. Okay? And then, but you keep an eye on him or her. Next slide. Next slide. You shout for help. Shout for help. Don't pour water on him. Don't allow people to pour water on them like they will do. Okay, you've done the airway. That's how to open the airway. Next slide. Okay, still on how to extend the neck to open the airway. Next. Okay, please just go ahead. Okay, that's checking breathing. Okay. Next. All right. Okay, this is repeating some of what we had gone through. But you start with 30 chest compression. After you are convinced that this patient's heart is no longer responding or beating. Next. Okay, so this is a technique for that. You place the heel of one hand on the center of the chest, like it's done, depicted there, and then just follow that sequence. We'll demonstrate it for those who will be interested. Yeah. Okay, next. So it's 32, remember that. 30 chest compressions, 2 rescue breaths. Next. Next. Okay, so remember that when you are administering the rescue breath, you pinch the nose. Otherwise, you just be blowing air in it to be coming out through the nose. So you have to pinch and close the nose, the nostrils, while you apply the rescue breath. Next. Okay. Next. Okay, so continuous chest compressions will keep the heart, the blood flowing because of your manual and mechanical effort. Next. Okay, yeah. So make sure you are protective. You don't want to just put your mouth in anybody's mouth. Yeah. Yes, I'm doing that fast because of time consciousness, but we're going to demonstrate here. Actually, when so you need to keep an eye on the chest. Okay, in that video, the doctor wasn't really, or the operator wasn't looking at the chest. So when you apply, you are breathing into the man's mouth, you're also looking at the chest. Make sure the chest is rising. If it's not rising, that means you are not pushing air there at all. You have to ensure that the neck is properly flexed and the air will flow in. And there are devices that are recommended. Incidentally, we got some devices that will help you avoid direct contact with the victim's mouth or discharge from the mouth and all that. So you can actually don't run away. Use these devices. You can keep some in your car. Some are very cheap. At worst, you can use an handkerchief or whatever, a handkerchief, if that's all you have. But it's very, very important part of the rescue efforts. So we'll demonstrate that briefly. Next, please. Okay. So the chest compression is very, very important. It's been found to be the most important because what you are doing is pushing, doing the heart's job for it. The heart is stopped beating, but by pressing on the heart through this method to a depth of 4 to 6 or 5 to 6 centimeters, you are pushing blood to the vital organs, especially the brain. Next. All right, so if the patient now starts breathing, you clap for yourself and then you've done a good job. But you now have to put them on what you call a recovery position. Usually the left side with the upper knee bent. Why you do this is to avoid the situation where the patient will now inhale or saliva or gastric if he or she vomits. So you put them on that side. It's called rescue or recovery position. Next slide. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I think that's it. Is there another slide? There was supposed to be something. This is about choking. And I don't think we're going to talk about that today. So if your patient is choking, you will... okay, I think I should mention that that happens a lot. But if somebody says, I'm choking, and is able to tell you he's choking, then he's not choking. Okay? That means he's probably thinking that he's choking. But you need to keep an eye on the individual until he goes, he's no longer saying anything and he's holding on his throat. Then you know this is really choking. Something is blocking the airway. Then you do this. So, but that's outside of brief for today. Thank you. I think that will be all. So we can demonstrate the CPR for those who wish to, or if you have questions, maybe. I just try to rush through it, being conscious of the time. Thank you very much. Okay, I didn't show the AED though. I thought there was another slide on the AED, but we have a model here which will show us. And I think the men are trying to, I'll leave them to say that. Get one. It's very expensive, but like you said, something that will shock the heart back into action. It's not like Ipanasi. Okay, that's it. Okay. Okay. So that's it. An AED. We have a trainer here to use in training. Next one. Next. So while you are carrying out the CPR, the chest compression and all that, you have somebody bring down an AED. So it's not just about CPR. The CPR must be followed by the AED to shock the heart back. Remember that you're doing the chest compression mechanically, manually. You are trying to push the heart, push blood through your effort manually. However, you need a machine that will now shock the heart back into its normal state So, but because you are using something electrical, the currents will only be relevant to the victim. The discharge will only be relevant and useful, but it could be very harmful to the provider. So you stay clear. Don't touch the victim. And then you apply the shock. Some will do that automatically. And that's the one we probably will be, that will be useful for us to have. Next. Okay. I think these are just electrical activities that we're talking about that could cause sudden cardiac death. Let me put it that way, cardiac death, yeah. Okay, so if the machine says shock is indicated, stand clear. You press the button and then it applies the shock. Where you stand clear, everybody stands clear if you don't want to get shocked. After you deliver the first one, you go back to the CPR. So you alternate CPR with the administration of this until the patient comes to, or you're convinced that the patient is dead, certified dead by a medical professional. All right, I think I'll stop here actually. Thank you very much. So if there's any question, bent, and then their head is hanging down, so that if they have to vomit, they will not aspirate, because that could kill them again, second time. Okay, very observant. It's not a very terribly important point, but people believe that left side blood flows, especially when you're talking about pregnant women, that when they lie on their left side, the womb for the uterus is not lying on the abdominal aorta, so blood flows better. But you may take that not pay too much. Left or right is fine, just as long as the head is hanging down and they don't aspirate. Okay. Any other things? Any other question? All right, sir.
What do you actually say that one does in case of epileptic patients when you are on? What do you do?
Okay, very good too. And it's not part of. I say it doesn't cause sudden death unless the victim aspirates. That's when they are seizuring, when they can vomit, and they can then aspirate the vomitus into their lungs, and that one kills them fast. That will kill them. So all you need to do is just kneel down by their side while they seizure and put them on the side in that recovery position. Hold them. Because the other thing you can do is to ensure that they protect their, parents in those days, what they do is to stick a spoon. But I think they do more harm because they do it forcefully and they do it for various reasons. The reason they do it, or they did it, I don't know whether they still do, is that they think erroneously that once the child clenches the teeth, that's death. There's nothing like that. Clenching the teeth is part of the seizure itself. So what you do is to avoid them biting their tongue, so you can put anything that will not cause more harm. Maybe you have a handkerchief or something, you fold it and put it in between their teeth so that they will not bite their tongue. That's just about it. Let the salivation flow outward. If the vomit, let it flow outward on that recovery position. And like I said and emphasize again, the saliva is not contagious. It's never, ever contagious. Don't run away from them. Show them kindness. Stand by them until they come around. And like I said, you probably be the only ones left standing. Others would have taken off or be watching from a safe distance. And they'll be so happy to see that somebody is standing by their side, like the psychiatrist just said. So it's a good deed. Don't run away, please. Out. When they wake up, yeah, you've done your job. You have done your job. They are up. Just reassure them, because they run away because of the embarrassment and all that people have made them feel over time. Yeah. Any other question? Sorry, I didn't get that.
Respect.
Okay, I get what you want. Okay, I know what you want to say. All right. And if this is happening in the house, you probably will not mind, in the unlikely event that it's your spouse, you will not mind whether you are pressing on the breast or exposing the breast, because in actual fact, you have to remove the clothing to do a proper CPR. And that's why, if you are not comfortable, don't introduce yourself as a doctor or a medical practitioner outside where you don't think you can perform with it. You also have your conscience to contend with. So, if it's a woman and you're a guy, well, I don't know. I was not taught what to do. But if you're alone, if you're somebody you know, it's your relation, well, just do something like the video said. You know, the first thing you can do is to do nothing, because you will be saving a life. And if the person ends up dying because you think, oh, now woman, no, I'm making no thinks I won't do something. If he dies, she dies. You live with your conscience for a long time. That, oh, maybe I will have said that woman. No. Anyway, figure it out. Let me do it for you. Yeah. So that's the question you wanted to ask. But in reality, if it's an open space and all that, so, okay, you have an answer. Okay, you have a suggestion. Okay.
Based on what you're asking, like it's a lady, and like you said, the first thing you're thinking of is to save the person's life. If you feel you don't want to be friendly with people around you, to kind of loosen the bra, and once the bra is out of the way, because that can also be an obstacle. The person is wearing a light shirt, they're not wearing a light shirt. Do what you have to do, and it's exactly the same procedure that we say, like perform for a woman.
And I think one other thing that may help is to let people know that you are, oh, you know what to do. Let them know, oh, call yourself whatever. I'm a first aid provider. Introduce yourself, all those area boys, all of them say, I be doctor. You can call yourself doctor. You're allowed to call yourself a doctor if you know what to do. Say, I'm a doctor. Because all those area boys, wait, what this man they do? You know, they're looking for something to pick. But if you tell them, please stay away, I'm a doctor, I want to help you. So the problem will be less, there'll be more understanding if you have to expose him or her. can also be the other way around anyway. A woman may be the rescuer, and she has to remove the shirt for effect. And if you are doing this, you don't do it on a bed, though. It has to be on a hard surface. So if it happens at home, you need to put the patient on the floor. And if you see anybody doing this on a bed in a hospital, they are not really doing what they were taught. Because you need a hard surface so that the mechanical, manual pumping will be effective. Orthopedic bed, no, it's better. You know, orthopedic bed is not stiff enough. We need a stiff, hard surface. You know, look at the mechanical thing we're talking about. You are trying to press the chest against any other resistance. I think you need to apply pressure. The thrusting effect is, no, you can't do it effectively on a bed. That's the truth. It has to be a hard surface or preferably on the floor. God forbid if something happens, or we need to bring the person down. And everything must be done within 2-3 minutes or 5 minutes. The person is already brain dead. So if you don't start CPR and these measures we are talking about within 5 minutes, you may not lose the patient, you may wake him up, but you'll be a vegetable. So whatever you need to do has to be within 2 to 5 minutes. Within 5 minutes, after which the brain will die. You may succeed in making the person wake up, breathing and all that, but the brain is dead. So you have to act fast. And that's why we're having this. So you have to do something. Do something. Please, the chest compression is important. We talk about the chest hand placement. And do something. The only sticking point is getting the AED as a follow-up. But at least do something. The chest compression will just help. And then remember to call 112. 112, that's Lagos State emergency line. Whether they come or not, just call or try. So it puts a lot of responsibility on you. Now you have all been taught to. So no stories, all right. No pouring of water and no shouting, which is what people do. Yes, ma'am. You may have the video you want. Okay, in a village. Well, you call for help. Just another thing, you call for help. You ask them to do what you know they could do. Like you are doing the chest compression, then you can quickly teach them how to do the mouth to mouth. So while you are doing it, because you need to do 30, and 30 is quite a while. So while they are doing that, you already also tell them, oh yeah, put mouth for a mouth. Pinch the nose. When I stop, you just blow into the mouth, But when you are doing the mouth to mouth, make sure you cover the entire mouth. Make sure you pinch the nose, and yeah. How do you get it? Yeah, that's the problem, because you have very short, limited time of 2 to 5 minutes. Well, do something. Maybe just the chest compression may help. I don't know. Can you what? Can you? Yeah, that's what I say. Because you're going to do 30. So you're going to do 30. So, but before you start, or while you are on it, keep shouting for help. Help, help, help. And when they tell, what can I do? Then you tell them, we'll try and show something now and see whether it will work that way. Pray. Yeah, praying. That won't be enough for that. Others should be praying. Okay, you're saying that others should, okay, call them to pray in a village. All manner of prayers will come, but it's okay to pray. Yeah, praying. Praying. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, you've seen that one, and then we've seen a video where people talk about cough CPR. That if one is about to suffer a cardiac arrest or attack, you should start coughing in a particular way. I've seen that video. Studies have not shown that it works. There's nothing like that. And it looks a little logical that, okay, when you cough, something will happen, but it doesn't happen. When we see these things, we do studies to see whether it makes sense. It doesn't make sense, by the way. And if that doesn't make sense, I don't see how patting the inner surface of the elbow will awaken a heart that is dying. No, it doesn't work. That's the truth. I saw that video too, and and in Nigeria, the truth is that once you repeat the same thing over and over and over and over, everybody will start believing. That's why I started with typhoid malaria. It's been repeated so often that so doctors sometimes, you see a disease like that, typhoid malaria. So we repeat the same falsehood. It's not true. So please, if anything, see somebody slump, check the pulse. It's not breathing, the heart is not beating, start chest compression. Don't start patting the person on the elbow. We've not seen it happen before, except in the video. All right. Sobering, very sobering. Yeah, I think it's a good thing we left it to the end. But it's sobering because it now puts a responsibility on us. Those of us who have attended this meeting and this presentation to do something. Do something. If all you can do is call 112, do something. Thank you very much. So we're going to have we show you something. Hey, we're supposed to do this downstairs, or what do you say, President? Okay, you say we can show it here, and okay, doctor, okay, and first they will do it, yeah. So please, you can show that if you want to come around. So. No, you can do it here. People can come around if they wish to. If they wish to. So if you are right-handed, you stay on the patient's. If you are. Go ahead. So if you are right-handed, you stay on the victim's right hand. Okay, so what you will do is the first thing to do is to find out, are you all right? So, are you all right? Are you okay? Yeah, so you need to confirm, like I said, maybe it's hungry, tired, just exhausted. So you check the pulse, and you can check your pulse. Your pulse is between the trachea and the neck muscle. So in between, please check your pulse. That's the carotid pulse. It's the most accessible. Can you feel it beating? Yeah, so that's you can check your partners or anybody. But that's not as easy. Oh, okay, so, please, we are asked we pause for a while, please. People online. Okay, so please. Check your partners. Can we?
Can we do it right here?
No, it has to be done on the floor. Let's do it as a real thing.
Let's take one table. One table is coming.
Okay, so we're trying to demonstrate what is ideal. Like we said, hard surface or floor. No, you cannot do a proper CPR on this surface. This one will even create more problem because it will break.
Okay, if they want...
No, okay, so what you do is, yeah?
What I do...
Let's
Okay. You can see. Oh, okay. You can see. Yeah. Okay. It's better.
Okay. So, first of all, safety, right? You have to make sure that the environment is safe. There's no danger. Then you come to the person. Hello. Oh, okay. Okay. Safety. Assess the situation before you come close. Everywhere is clear. Yes. Assess the situation, make sure the person is laying in a safe area, because if there's still, maybe if people are still fighting or someone is shooting, obviously you shouldn't come and do that. But if everywhere is clear, you come to the person, make sure they are not laying on a wet area. Don't pour water on them. That's very important. Dr. Fagbemi said that because of the AED, you're administering a shock, and we know how electricity and water works. So the next thing, you come to the person. Hello, sir. Are you okay? Hello, hello. He's not going to respond. Obviously, if the person responds, then they don't need this service that we're talking about. They don't need CPR because they're okay. So he's not responding. I check his pulse because that's C, the circulation, C-A-B. So circulation. I'm checking his pulse. Okay. The A is airway. I'm going to lift up his neck, right? And then I'm trying to listen or look at his chest if it's rising, if he's breathing. So I can't see that. So that's the A, the airway, and the breathing checked. So I start compression right away because, like Dr. Fagbemi explained, it's very time sensitive. Your brain needs oxygen, and that's what blood does, right? It takes the oxygen to the brain. So if you're not getting that oxygen, the neurons begin to die. And for most other organs, it's not as bad as the brain. The brain death is usually irreversible. That's why if you don't start early enough, even if the person survives, they're basically going to be like a shell of themselves. They're going to be like in a vegetative state. So you put your hands like this. You have to lock. Let me take this off. So, you know, there's like a bone on the chest here, right? You're coming down towards this area, and the sternum, that's what it's called. I'm trying to not use terms that would be unnecessarily hard, but it's called the sternum, right? You're coming down to this middle part, the end part, called the xiphoid process. So you put your hand, because it's very hard, it's harder than it looks. That's the thing I want us to keep in mind, right? And you press. If you're doing this, you're not doing anything, right? You have to make sure you're going deep enough, right? Sometimes there could be, so our light indicated, like this, nothing, right? You have to make sure you're going deep enough because you're basically manually pumping the heart, right? And you have to be able to go past the bone, the ribs, to be able to press the heart. So, and it's usually, you're supposed to do about, the rate is about 100 to 120 beats per minute. So usually, I'll think of a Christian song, but usually just to help your rhythm, the song I learned CPR with is Staying Alive, I think it's Beatles. So it goes, just the rhythm is about, so And we do like 30 at first. So if after assessing everything, this person is not breathing, I'll go ahead and start. And you have to.
See, it's green.
So it's indicating.
That means it's applying enough pressure. When it's red, that means
You're not applying enough pressure. So I'll go ahead. And you have to.
No, okay, I understand. It's just to train you to know how deep your thrust should be. Okay, so this mannequin.
It should be about 4 to 6 inches deep. It'll be centimeters. Okay, and fast, yes. So we'll go again.
Okay, she's done 30. So okay, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, and as you can see, I'm using my whole weight to kind of push, because if I'm just using my hand, I can't really get deep enough. I'm putting my whole weight on the patient's, well, the mannequin's chest.
You don't stay, you still can't.
Yeah. That's it.
Some people stay across, some people travel like this. Okay.
For the airway, ensure you move the chin just with 2 fingers. Move the neck, okay? And then pinch the nose. If you don't want to kiss the person directly, you can use this, or you can use an handkerchief. But in this case, we have this device, so you put it in the mouth. Okay, press it very well, and then you breathe. So, just view my position. While I'm breathing, I'm also watching to make sure that the chest is rising along with the breath. So, do it twice. Okay, so after 2, then she continues again.
The chest
so it's 32.
So, for the
Okay, so while you're doing that, the ambulance man calls with the AED.
Or if this is available wherever you
or if it happens in the airport, what result do you get here? Okay, saying if you succeed with just that, then you move the patient to the side. You have done a good job. When he wakes up, you can walk away. But if nothing is happening, that means the heart needs to be shocked back to. So you apply this.
Adult patient. If the patient is a child, press the child button.
But we started within 5 minutes.
Remove clothing from the patient's chest. Remove faggot and apply pads onto patient's bare skin.
But it's better than doing nothing. That you have to understand that.
Better than doing nothing.
Yes. So
let me hold it for you.
Usually, in most other societies like abroad, you would have AEDs out in public spaces. Because ideally, if somebody just collapses on the street, it would be better if you have this close by than having to wait for emergency services. But it's not that popular in Nigeria. But if you do have it around you, it's very easy to use. Most of them either come with a screen or it's literally like telling you what to do. Like this one.
Apply pads as shown in the pictures.
So it's literally telling you, okay, apply pads as shown in the picture. And if you look at the pads here, it's showing you exactly where you should put it. Usually you're putting one at the right side around the chest and then at the left side a little bit to the side, right? Usually there'll always be instructions for it because it's on the street. It's for people that are not necessarily medically inclined, right? So if you have to, in a situation where you're pushing, you're doing everything, the person still has no pulse, you put this. Another thing about the AEDs, it actually analyzes the rhythms, right? It checks, all this ECG basically does it by itself. So it's able to see, okay, this person is having an arrhythmia, this person is having ventricular fibrillation or a pulseless ventricular tachycardia. Those are just the names of some of the situations where the machine will decide, okay, it needs a shock to the heart to be able to bring the heart back. Like Dr. Fagbemi spoke about, the heart having its own electrical center where it starts bringing the activity. But in a situation where a person is undergoing cardiac arrest, it's just like the electrical center is not working. There's no electricity. So this is going to send a shock that will okay, wake up, and then the heart will be like, okay, let me stop behaving myself again, or let me come back to my normal activity because it has received a shock. So, sorry. So it's telling me apply pad on the patient's bare skin and back to the no water situation. That's why you shouldn't pour water on the person, because you are shocking somebody that you poured water on. And make sure the person is away from water or any water sources. Then you take it.
And so that means when in case of drowning, you need to be very careful because there's a lot of water around. So you have to push the patient away, quickly dry the chest and around, and then.
Okay, so it's still telling me remove packets and apply pad. So you apply one to the left side, usually towards the side and down, and then the second one on the right side on the top. The image is here, so it's very easy to follow, right? So right here, right?
Press pads firmly on skin. Do not touch the patient. Analyzing heart rhythm.
Wait, I wish. So it said, do not touch the patient, analyzing heart rhythms.
Heart rhythm. Shock advised. Do not touch the patient. Everyone clear.
So ideally I'm supposed to clear.
Press the flashing shock button.
So after we clear, then you press the shock button, which is this red one blinking. So I'll press it and clear. Yes, so it says shock delivered, begin CPR, then we'll continue compressing and yes. So you go back to continuing your No. You can leave it because even while you're doing CPR, the device is analyzing the heart's rhythm and telling you, okay, letting you know, okay, is this still going on? Has the heart picked up, right? So it's still doing all that while you're compressing. So you can leave it on and continue your compression. Why not what? So the thing is, like we spoke about, in an emergency situation, more than anything, your brain needs oxygen. Right, more than anything. So that's why you start off, first of all, with the compression. So you're helping the heart to pump little blood to the brain. So now your brain now has that little blood. You can now start, because the whole opening process, if you do that first, the person's brain is without oxygen while you're opening the device, while you're turning it on, while you're putting the pads. But if you've given the first set of compression and breath, if you're able to, then at least the person still has something going on.
And sometimes when it happens, this machine is not there with you. This can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the machine.
Yeah.
Only few airports and public places are supposed by law in some countries to have this scattered all over. And anybody should be able to administer. Like you saw in that film, that guy was able to start CPR before help came with the AED, and they were able to salvage the situation. So we need to have this in public places in Nigeria. Those of you who are in government and all that, please help us push this. They need to have AEDs and trained users in public places, especially where people gather in large numbers. Sir? Oh, we should go to Senate. Yeah, those of you who have access to Senate and the House of Reps and all that, please help us tell them. Pardon? It won't be useful for them there. So that's it. So that's the AED actually. The old type. In the past, you have to carry it into hospital and they have to apply the shock manually. But this one does all the job for you. All you need to do is just apply the pads. And it will tell you, stand back, I'm going to apply the shock. So that's why it's automated, different from the manual type. They still use the manual type in hospitals, in ICUs. But this is the type you use for emergency response and care. Any other question? Thank you.
Somebody has questions.
Ideally, if the person respirated and come alive, when the ambulance is there, would the doctor receive the person without asking any question? This is Nigeria, what killed him, who brought him here?
Will it be accepted?
Yeah. Ideally, the ambulance should come with at least 2 individuals who are trained first aid providers. Ideally. So the driver and then 2 first aid providers who are trained in how to administer this and all that and to continue. So they will not just bundle the patient and start going. They will ask you a few questions. What have you done? Did you administer anything? They just take a quick note and be on their way. And if you are so disposed or you are related to the victim, a good idea to go along with them. Okay? But it's not mandated. You just tell them on the scene, I've applied chest compression, and we applied their AED that's available to us, and that's it. So you are not under any obligation. And then also, know that if you are not comfortable, you may not try. Okay? There's no law that binds you to doing something. But there is a Good Samaritan law. If you breach it, they won't arrest you, but it's a Good Samaritan law. You will not be held liable if anything goes wrong. Okay? You're just trying to help. So it's good to help.
So, thank you. Thank you. No, I think we can do better than that. So, thank you, Dr. Fagbemi and team, for having taken us through what is potentially life-saving. Our approach to this thing is that we know that God is always on our side, and He will continue to protect us. It's like the insurance that we buy, which we buy, but we hope and we know we don't need. So we will not have any need to apply this on ourselves in Jesus' name. Yes. So that's really that for today. I want to thank everyone who has been here with us, both those physical and online. We will not close without having a closing prayer. And I would like to call on Brother Ernest Mora to come and give us a closing prayer.
Shall we rise to pray? Our God in heaven, we return all the praise and glory unto you for the impartation of knowledge. Thank you for our resource persons. We pray your blessings upon them in Jesus' name. Father, we pray that the knowledge that we have received here will be used effectively to your glory in the name of Jesus. As we return back to our respective homes, we pray that your presence will go with us. We're also praying for tomorrow's service. Lord, that your presence will make the difference in the midst of us. Let your name be glorified. We have prayed in Jesus' name. Thank you for coming. God bless you. Let's share the grace together. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, the communion of the Holy Spirit abide with us all now and forevermore. Amen. Surely God's goodness and mercy is following us all the days of our lives, dwelling in the house of the Lord forever and ever. Amen. Thank you. God bless you.
Yes, I was told that those who want to have their blood pressure or blood sugar checked, that they can avail of it at the Wellness Center. So please feel free downstairs. You can always be directed. Thank you. Yes. Or Dieba.
If you find
no, but
even a Rex please feel free.